Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 388. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
388, that's only 12 away from 400.
I know, 400 is getting close. We're going to have to start thinking about what special little thing we'll do for episode 400.
Just make Connor do it by himself. I mean, it would devolve into whiskey talk real quick, right?
Probably.
Like, yeah. Whiskey talk or hockey manga that he's been tweeting about the last couple days.
Yeah, 400 is quite a feat. Yeah, that's coming up soon. And that should mention here, if you didn't catch it, everyone, because I didn't know exactly what day it was going to go out, so we didn't promote it in advance. But the annual episode for the year did go out before this episode. Annual number 8 came out sometime. I think it was Thursday. It came out for everyone. So if you haven't checked that out, go back and check it out. Connor was on that episode, and we did debate the top 10 DC comics of the year, and it was probably the toughest year of debating we've ever had. So,
yep,
yeah, go and check that out.
I wouldn't say it was lively, but it did get spirited.
There were just actually things to fight over though, because there was so many choices and some differing opinions. I
mean, we're still all on speaking terms, so it didn't get too far.
No, unfortunately, we're still on speaking terms with Connor.
Yeah, you know him and his he went off on an anti-King tirade, and I just had to leave it. Which you should be proud of me for not responding.
Oh, he kept going on Twitter as well. I saw him going on, but I think I've realized why I don't like Tom King anymore. Like, shut up, you filthy ginger.
That's like saying that you don't like a Spielberg movie because the way that he frames the camera, and it's like, well, wait, give me something more tangible than that, bud. Like Let's discuss like what he's saying in those books, not, he's a fool.
Yes. Welcome everyone. It's the DC Comics Podcast. We get together and we talk about the books we read this week from DC, which is the last episode of 2023. It's the last week of books from 2023. It just so happens the timing of New Year's is fallen in such a way that this episode is going to go public on New Year's Eve, meaning this is the latest it could possibly be and still be in the year that it could be. So here we are.
Yeah. If you want to spend, if you're antisocial like me and you don't really want to be at parties and stuff, you can just put us in your ear and spend New Year's with us. Yeah,
I suspect most will probably wait until, the first or the second to listen to the show, and that's okay. I understand, but yes, Happy New Year's everyone, since it'll be the new year or coming up on it by the time you listen to this.
2024, we've officially been recording together for 10 years. Like that passed back in like November, December, but yeah.
Yeah, not in this show. This show started in 2016, but yeah, there was a couple of years of different things of us doing stuff. It was all terrible because we weren't very good at it yet, but
no, and it took me about a year to get an actual microphone. And Pete kept yelling at me not to stop using my headphone microphone because it sounded like garbage.
Oh, it did sound like garbage. Yeah. Shame on you. I'll be honest, Matt, I'm impressed that the mic you got is still lasting to this day. I thought you'd have to buy a new one by now, but no, fair enough. It's
I mean, to be fair, this is all I do. So I don't. It's not like you guys, where you guys are constantly using the mics and whatever. I have updated the computer since, right? So I've been recording this on my laptop for the last couple of years. Notice the digital sound is away because my ancient Mac.
Oh, I remember that happened every so often before, but there was a do every once in a while for no reason.
So some of the listeners that are friends of mine had since then called it brainiacking, and they go, "Oh no, he's brainiacking again." And then one of them is like, "How much is it going to take? How much do I need to kick in for you to get a new computer?" And that's what made me bust out the laptop that was, for work things and other projects, but it's been pretty okay since.
I mean, it's not like you have to put that much. You're literally just using a Skype call. You don't have to record anything. You're not doing anything on your end. It's just me. So
I just show up. It's great. I get to be like, I'm like on a talent contract, but part of that is I don't get to make any decisions. So it's fun. You just tell me where to go, tell me what to do, and I try.
a good point. I should be telling you to do more. That's a good point. I should.
No, not more. You should be telling me to do less, because 3 out of 4 weeks I tend to read more books than you do.
That's not on me. I don't tell you to do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to tell me. We need to do more. You can tell me to do less.
Purely a Matt creation. That's what that is. Anyway, coming up on this week's show, everyone, we have Titans Beast World, issue 3, Titans issue 6, Detective Comics 1080, we have Action Comics 1060, we have The Flash issue 4, Green Arrow issue 7, The Penguin issue 5, Amazon's Attack issue 3, Justice Society of America issue 8, Batman Santa Claus Silent Night issue 4, and Power Girl issue 4. A lot of issue 4s this week, but that's what's coming up on the show. So still a healthy week. I read 9 books. Matt did 11, the crazy bastard. So that was the week in DC Comics. Next week is a reprieve. I only have like 3 books next week. It's going to be magical.
Hallelujah.
We have such a nice lazy Saturday next week, not reading anything, barring 3 books. It's going to feel great. So that's what's coming up on the show today. Of course, though, we will start with Matt's favorite segment, your favorite segment, everyone's favorite segment. It's the ComiXology Top 10. So we're going to look at how the books are ranked on the ComiXology sales page right now. So we'll look at Tuesday first. Obviously, that's DCD. Matt, what are you guessing for number 1?
I'm guessing Beast World number 3.
That is incorrect.
What? Really? Oh, wow. Is it Titans?
Nope.
Really? I'm gonna think about my third guess. Is it the Action Annual?
Nope.
Okay, there are three strikes out and I'm out.
Number 1 right now is Justice Society of America.
What? I'm shocked.
I don't know, John's name still carries a lot of weight, I guess.
It is John's and Janin, right? So, makes sense.
Yeah. Number 2 is Titans. Number 3 is Action Comics. Number 4 is Beast World. Number 5 is Green Arrow, for some reason. Number 6 is The Flash. Number 7 is Alan Scott, Green Lantern. Number 7 is Detective Comics. That was number 8, sorry. Number 9 is Silent Night. And number 10 is Batman, Brave and the Bold, meaning that Power Girl, Penguin, and Amazon's Attack are all falling outside the 10. And Cyborg as well. Cyborg's at number 15.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Harley Quinn's all the way down. It's the lowest book in DC for this week.
Yeah, I haven't heard about Harley Quinn in a very long time. So, like, I don't even know if Stephanie Phillips is still even writing it.
No, it's Tini Howard that's doing it.
Tini Howard. Oh, wow. Yeah, see? That's how far out it's been.
Yeah, so, again, as we always say, with that and Poison Ivy and a couple other books, I'm sure the variants on the physicals are more than propping up the sales, but it doesn't seem to be doing that well digitally. Looking at Wednesday for the rest of the industry, what are you guessing for number 1?
Let me pull that up, because I forgot to get rid of DC. So, let's see. There's a couple X books. There's a Image book. Oh, there's a new G.I. Joe, but I doubt that's there. So I'm going to guess Immortal X-Men.
You're correct.
All right.
Actually. Very good. That's number 1. Number 2 is Timeless, which is a Marvel book, and it's Kelly and Lansing on that.
Let's see what this is about.
Is that Moon Knight? I think that's Moon Knight on the cover. I can't tell though. So there's like a hoodied figure.
Yeah. Kind of, but it also looks like Luke Cage, like an older Luke Cage right there. But it's the Behold the Future of the Marvel Universe. Yeah. So the Moon Knight unending has risen, a nightmare born of Stark Tech, the Eternal Machine, and the God of the Moon, and now all Earth bows before his overwhelming power. But one man stands against Khonshu, Power Man, the Marvel Universe final living superhero. So it's kind of like old man Luke Cage.
Okay, all right. Number 3 is X-Force. Number 4 is Duke, issue 1. This is a Joshua Williamson book.
Josh Williamson, G.I. Joe.
Oh, it's G.I. Joe, okay.
Yeah.
Well, none of that sentence makes me want to read it, so I'm okay with that.
But it's Tom Riley on the art. So, I mean, Tom Riley's not bad. Not enough to make me want to read a G.I. Joe book, though.
No. Number 5 is Predator versus Wolverine. Number 6 is Avengers Inc. Number 7 is The Sensational She-Hulk. Number 8 is Miles Morales Spider-Man. Number 9 is Spider-Woman. Seems to be a spider event going on called Gang War, judging by the banners on those covers. And then number 10 is Star Wars Dark Droids. So that is the Wednesday top 10.
Have you heard anything about this Universal Monsters Dracula? Because the covers look dope.
I can't say I have. I'm seeing that cover. Is that a wolf man though, or a wolf I'm seeing on the?
Well, you remember well, I don't know how familiar you are with the lore. Oh, it's Tynan as well. With the lore from Dracula, is he can turn into a mist or a wolf, or he's very much more supernatural. He's not just the Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, no, I read the original book, believe it or not.
Yeah. So, I'm sure that's him in wolf form standing over a victim, but
very probably.
Yeah. It looks very moody. But yeah, I didn't know if you knew, because I know you like the Dracula.
Interesting. Who is it that's printing that? Oh, it's Image. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Had no idea that Tynan was doing an Image Dracula book, with the Universal Monsters banner on top of it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, the covers for all three of those are pretty nice. Looking at the past one. It's only a 4-issue miniseries, so it's almost done. Yeah. I wonder if he's going to do a series of minis based on different characters or what. But very cool, very cool. There's the Comicsology top 10 for the week. Hope everyone enjoyed it immensely, as I'm sure you did. So we actually do have one piece of news, Matt.
Yes.
Big news. It's actually kind of sad, but it's not too imminent. It's actually quite far out in advance. And that is that we now know when Ram V's Detective Comics run is coming to an end. It is going to end with issue 1089. But to remind everyone, the issue we're talking about this week is 1080. So this is 9 issues in advance, and it's back to monthly, I believe, starting in January. Okay. So that's 9 months notice.
Cool.
So,
I'd seen the headline, but I didn't know what the number was.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was coming a lot sooner. But I did see that Ram V had said that it's about 30 issues worth of story by the time it's all said and done.
By the time he's done, yeah.
So, it's a pretty solid run.
Yeah, no, the run's obviously fine length. I like this extended notice, though, because I think I think I'll enjoy going into the final arc, knowing it's the final arc, and be able to appreciate the fact that we're building to the ending. I think to compare it to the Action Comics run that's just ending this week, is that I didn't like only finding out about that when the last arc had already started, because I was like, oh wait, I wasn't prepared for this one to be the last one. I didn't come into this story with this expectation that it was the final one. I really like that I can go into the last part of this run, and it's not even like the arc that we're going to be starting in January will be the final one. I imagine that'll be like a 3 or 4 issue thing, and then the final arc that'll wrap the whole thing up will start, down the line. And I think you mentioned as well there'll be an annual and a special as well still on top of those 9 issues remaining. So we're still got a hefty amount to read, and it'll still take up most of 2020, unless they start double shipping again at some point.
Right.
But that's another thing altogether. So, yeah, I mean, it has to end at some point, and I'd rather it kind of went on its own terms, and it's ending the run that he always planned. This isn't getting cut short, it's not being extended, it's ending exactly where he always planned to end it. So which outside of Swamp Thing, I feel like that's been his bag the entire time. Swamp Thing got extended, so we got you got to enjoy that for a bit longer. Well, it did, but I think it was pretty clear that he had always planned for those extra issues. Like he was hoping he'd get those extra 6. Yeah. But everything else, all his other runs like Justice League Dark and all of this, he seems to write to the end of his intended story, which is good. I'm glad that DC lets him do that. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what he ends up on after this. Although I would suspect we might get something starting before this even ends, just based on the fact that he obviously had the Vigil going alongside Detective for a while. And he's exclusive now too, right? Except for his creator owned. Yeah, he signed an exclusive contract. I want to say that was earlier this year. So probably he's in the early stages of whatever that time is that he's exclusive. So I'm sure he's got stuff cooking at DC that we've not heard about yet, and that'll be fun to hear. So, obviously, it's always a shame when something's coming to an end, especially when another run that we've really liked is coming to an end right now. But this is plenty of notice, so there's time to sort of savor it and know that it's going to be ending when it is. So, yeah. So I'm not too upset about it, but it is what it is. And so hopefully we have more Ram V books to enjoy by the time he's done with that, and hopefully whatever detective's going to afterwards is something that will be equally appealing. We'll find out. Not for a while, I imagine. Yeah. Maybe during the summer when they're doing all the Comic-Con style appearances. Yeah, something to counter the Zdarsky Batman stuff. Hey, Zdarsky's Batman might be over by the time this is done as well. Don't tempt me with a good time. That said, we'll lose so much content. Oh, well. I'm sure we'll find something else to make fun of. It's fine. Yeah. I'm probably still going to be reading Green Arrow, so. Yes. And even I'm still reading the A. Williamson book. Yeah. Well, 2, actually, because I'm still reading Batman and Robin, so. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Easy. All right. Well, that's the news, everyone. That was the one thing. It was pretty quiet otherwise, though. I mean, it is Christmas after all. We're in that week between Christmas and New Year. Most people don't tend to announce things at this point in time, so we'll see what the New Year brings. But that is that. So we'll get into this week's books then. We will start off with the event. So. Titans Beast World issue 3, Tom Taylor writing and Lucas Meyer on the art for this issue. So this is a switch from Ram V. Ram V, sorry. We were just talking about Ram V. Ivan Reis. It was it's because of the Ivan, it's the V. It's the V in the name. It made me think of Ram V. How dare they both have V's in their name and consider it. So look at Lucas Meyer, and it's kind of the same as the Ivan Reis elevated house style. But I will say I love a lot of the small touches that he puts in on some of the characters. Honestly, Matt, I was going to say I saw a different artist name and went, oh no, different artist, that's a shame. And then I read a few pages and went, you know what, this is at least on par with Reese and possibly even slightly better. Yeah. So, no complaints, actually. The fact that his Peacemaker resembles John Cena, I always get a kick out of, when artists do that. And we also, got Starfire suplexing a Black Adam lion. So, good on him. He's really. I'm trying to see what else that he's worked on, but he did a lot of Titans work in that Titans United Bloodback. So he's very familiar with these designs, and I think it worked out. So, yeah, I will say compared to Ivan Reis, he's got just a slightly flatter style, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually kind of prefer it a little bit because Ivan Reis I like, but sometimes he has that thing where his art can look a little shiny, if that makes sense. There's a shiny quality to it, and I think I like this slightly more muted art from Meyer. But so a lot of the chaos that started off in issue 2 is still going on. You've still got Lion, Black Adam fighting with Donna and Starfire. We have that going on. Starfire sets off a big explosion or light to take out all the spores. Very nice page. She's sort of hugging Donna to shield Donna from the blast. And then we got the Flashies showing up to try and help, and all this is going on. We have Dick's got Wolf Batman caged up in Titan's Tower, and he's talking to a doctor who lives in his building, because what part of the scene that happens to you is that she casually mentions, stop messing around with that mask, Dick. I live in the building. I see you coming and going all sorts of hours. I figured it out. And this is the one lady that he watches out for with the kids, right? I think so, yeah. They watch the puppy for him while he's out and about gallivanting, being Nightwing. And they're referenced here because they're in the Titans Tower lounge watching TV. They're watching Teen Titans Go by the looks of it when we actually see the TV later. Which I don't know if you've ever watched Teen Titans Go, but it's very self-referential to others. So I've seen the movie. I've never watched the show, but I saw the movie. Yeah, so it's very Looney Tunesy in that it's very self-referential. So it does make sense, as an in-universe cartoon, So I do like that. That's a small touch that I'm sure Tom Taylor threw in there. Yeah, and obviously Dick's been slashed to hell by Wolf Batman, and she's like, no, I need to check you out, I need to make sure you're okay, yada yada, and Babs is all for it. And this is where Detective Chimp walks in, and this got a big laugh out of me, is the doctor lady here grabs her torch and throws it at Detective Chimp, thinking one of the beasts have got inside, and they're like, no, he's not part of this, he's actually just always a chimp, he's not, this is normal for him. So I got a good chuckle out of that.
I do get, he goes, you think I'm one of the beast people? I get that not everyone has my powers of deduction, but I'm talking and wearing a hat. Like, the talking and wearing a hat really got me.
Yeah. So that sets up some stuff with him, which we come back to later in the issue. Meanwhile, a bunch of the Hawk people are attacking a plane. Gorgeous art here, actually. I thought the plane going down with the flames coming from the wings, all the Hawk people over it looked really cool. And Power Girl shows up to catch the plane and try and help them out. But as she's holding the plane, her mouth is wide open and a spore jumps into her mouth. And we get a bit of a transformation, and she turns into a flaming hawk.
A flame bird, if you will.
A flame bird, yes.
Yeah. Which
so
there's still a lot of questions. I know we're still only 3 issues in, but I have a lot of questions on who becomes what still. Like, why isn't she just a regular bird person? Is it because she's Kryptonian? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, what is it that turns her into a flaming bird as opposed to just a regular?
Actually, I think I've got an answer for this one.
Okay, what's that?
Well, like all Kryptonians, she's storing a lot of solar energy.
Okay.
So, flame bird.
So in essence, it's one of those things that like the Beast Boy spore with its, just shape changing also can access the Kryptonian DNA. All right, I can buy that.
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm saying that. I'm just.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there's, not like, I don't know. So, like, again, would whatever Superman get turned into, would he be a flaming thing too?
Well, I mean, remember the tie-in last week clearly implied that Maxine could manipulate what they were turning into. So it does say that it's not set in stone. It feels like it's almost like a spin of a roulette wheel to an extent, or maybe someone is influencing it. Maybe it's Beast Boy himself unknowingly as part of this new big thing, or maybe it's someone else. But either way, she's a big flame bird, and she starts wrecking the plane that she was trying to help. Luckily, though, John Kent, that is, shows up and goes electric blue and starts to fight her to try and protect the civilians. And that's where we leave them. So there's a lot of chaos in this. We go back to Starfighter fighting Black Adam, who's a lion, and he actually runs off after a bit of fighting. And they kind of deduced that, well, he's an animal, so fight or flight. When he realized that he couldn't win, he just bolted. But this is where Bobo brings in some other ideas here, where he's like, he can kind of sense that there's kind of a purpose to what they're doing here. Like, someone's behind this, using them. Someone's got an agenda. It's not just random chaos. There's something driving this. And we see a bunch of the bigger heroes fighting Garrow up in the sky. You get your Superman, your Shazam, so on, so on. And this is also where they try and slow down Garrow by using Donna's lasso, and Raven tries to help give her a boost. So we get a big couple of pages of that. This issue ends, though, with Amanda Waller, because we know that she's using this and she wants to use all this chaos to do whatever she wants. And she's on her way to Rikers Island to go and meet Lex Luthor. She's going to pull him into whatever she's doing. And the narration here talks about how, all of this was to give her permission to do what she's about to do, whatever that is. And we can make some, broad guesses that she wants to build some sort of ultra-controlling Suicide Squad where she's now controlling the government and she's got the authority to do whatever she wants to protect the country. But one of the big things the narration keeps getting at here is that she wants everyone to see the heroes like she sees them, as nothing but dangerous animals. And that kind of ties into all this.
So because I didn't read her Adventures on Earth 3 and whatever book that was, I'm wondering if something that happened on Earth 3, which is the crime syndicate, if something happened that has kicked her into high gear. Because we've always known that Waller's had it out for the heroes, but she always kind of just, it was live and let live.
Yeah, that core thing's not new for sure. Yeah, she's always felt that way.
Yeah, but something that's kicked it into overdrive enough to, to her to use the Peacemaker and the other one, the girl version. I forget what her name was, but to start, putting pieces in there. And then she goes to Lex because she wants something he stole from Batman.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So I wonder what that was, because we did see that in the short Williamson run on Batman before Zdarsky took over, that Lex had bought in, what was it, Batman Inc.?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there's some sort of infrastructure thing there. But
yeah, I couldn't have a guess as to what that is, because it might not even be something that was specifically pointed out before. It's just that they're using that storyline to say, oh, whilst that was happening, and Lex took some things from Batman, and we'll find out now.
That's what I mean.
So.
That's what I meant by like infrastructure thing. Like there's something there. But I do like Lex and Amanda's back and forth here. Where he's just like, I'm sorry, I'm afraid I have to do hard time for my many crimes. And he's just sitting there. And this is, again, the Lucas Meyer art here. That it's just Lex, the smug look on his face as Waller's yelling at him.
Like, I think this issue shows off a lot of fun little character moments like that in the facial art, whether it's Lex here at the end or the start with Dick and Babs. But it also has those big action set pieces like Power Girl with the plane and the fire. All that stuff looked great sequentially, as well as the line work. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, this has kind of introduced me to Lucas Meyer and made me really like the art, which is great. The final line that Waller has is that it's time to slay the Beast Boy, which to me says that, okay, she wanted all this to happen, but now she's ready to stop it. Like, she thinks it's enough damage has happened for her to get the power she wants. Maybe the president gave her the okay, whatever it is. That said, though, I suspect that when she tries to put an end to it, it's not going to end the way she thought it would. No. It won't work, or it won't be as easy. And it's like, oh no, now we need the heroes to actually win this fight, because my whole plans went up the shitter. That would be my expectation at this point, but we'll see how it plays out.
Chaos is a ladder, but for her, it's not tall enough. So she's still gonna need a boost. But yeah, no, I like this one read extra quick too. Like when I got to the end here.
Oh yeah, it did.
I was like, oh man, I'm already done. So a lot of good action set pieces, and again, the Lucas Meyer art. Like there's that page where John goes electric blue, and Power Girl's behind him, and just the coloring with the electric blue, and then her Flamebird stuff going on. Everything looks great. Like this book's really coming together. So. And I'm looking, when I clicked on Lucas Meyer, he's on another 2 issues. So
okay, cool.
We have that to look forward to. I believe he's on 4 and 6.
Yeah, so, I was just about to say I'll guess the next one. Because Reese did 2 in a row, I'd expect him to do 2 in a row, and then I guess they trade off the last couple. So no, I think the art's really good. I think this issue is a lot of the chaos, but the art is so good at showing it that I just kind of like seeing all these things happen. Obviously, the key plot points are the Waller stuff at the end, and the stuff with Bobo kind of like, and obviously he's probably talking about Waller, but him sort of telling that to Dick and the other Titans gives us a sense of them sort of starting to put 2 and 2 together, and maybe that'll progress in the story as we go. So... yeah, really solid middle issue of an event. I'm really having a lot of fun with this one. This obviously by its nature can't measure up to say the first issue, because all the big ideas get introduced with that one. Yeah. But as a middle chapter showing all this chaos happening, and seeing more Batman as a wolf is also fun. So, what are you rating Beast World issue 3?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can agree with that. Yeah, 8.5. Very nice. So, Titans, issue 6. Tom Taylor writing with Travis Moore on the art. This naturally follows on. The arc that's going on in Titans for these next few months is tying in, of course. And this is set after issue 3, and it does feel very naturally placed. After, unlike all those World Tour one-shots, which are all over the place, and they all seem to be set wherever, this legitimately feels like Titans 3.5. To the point where... I'm sure if you just read the main book, it'll probably work. But this, as I was reading it, felt essential to the overall story to me. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, because of where they leave Starfire in Beast World 3, to have it pick up with her here with the threads that have been going on in Titans, Taylor really made that work well, you know? And again, I'm sure if you read this before you read Beast World, it would still work, but I feel like we got more from it from reading Beast World first. And then this.
Unless they tell me otherwise, I think the go-to rule when an event's on and there's tie-ins is to always read the main issue of the event that week first before you read the other stuff. And I think that worked here. And when this book started, because I opened the first page and it was like, it's a flashback to Tamaran. And I thought, that's how he's going to do this. This arc's going to be all flashback stuff. And I thought it was just all going to be set in the past. But after a few pages, of course, it jumped to present day. And I was like, okay, so we are going to do more stuff. And it did feel like it continued straight on. And there is some stuff that happens here which feels like it has to be reflected in issue 4 of Beast World. I don't see how they can avoid bringing up some of this stuff that happens. So yeah, we get some backstory to Corey when she was I don't know, preteen, give or take, something like that.
Yeah. So, and she's in the royal family. There's an advisor with her named Xandir, and so
Xandir Harris from Sunnydale, California.
Yeah. And so that
was a quality joke. I don't feel you appreciated that enough, Matt.
Yeah. It was fine. But so she's supposed to go off with her parents, but she goes off with Xander instead. And the Citadel attack, which is this is a key part in Corey's origin. And the tower that her parents went to gets destroyed, leaving, her, I think they refer to her brother too, right? No, her sister, Commander. I don't even know if her brother's canon anymore. That was a thing in Supergirl a while back, but her and Commander are off, and then it gets into her origin of being, given to the Citadel and experimented on, her getting her star bolts, and then, how she had saved herself.
I just want to jump in here and tell the people watching the video that the audio is not out of sync. Like, Matt's literally out of sync with his audio and video for me as I'm watching him live on Skype. So this is not like a video problem. Like, you're good, Matt. No, you're good. You're good. It's just that your video is behind for some reason.
Okay, so are we back or no?
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, there was everything was coming through clear. I'm just letting people know there's nothing wrong with their playback. Yeah, actually, the one thing I liked here is Corey pointing out that her and Dick kind of share a bit of trauma because they both witnessed the murder of their parents. Although, as she points out, Dick went to stay with a billionaire and trained to be a fighter, where she had to deal with an entire planet being enslaved and having to rise up and fight back. So I like
the part too where she says that she saved herself, right? And then you turn the page and you get to this gorgeous flash page of Travis Moore drawing her uprising with shooting the star bolts, and her hair is big and flowy, which I always love when they draw Starfire, which is just this big bushel of hair. And it looks really good. Just a big fan of that.
Yeah, no, it's a great page. And this is where I realized they're rushing through this part, and I thought, I guess we're going back to present day, because I thought, because if we were going to just tell this story as an arc, you wouldn't be rushing through this part. You'd be telling the story of the uprising. But of course, after that, we go back to present day, and it's her chasing after Black Adam, who ran away from her, in Titans issue, or in Beast World, issue 3. So it flows on nicely from that. Like, it's really well orchestrated, where reading this after Beast World 3 feels so good. It felt so natural to jump into this. And Dick's still with Babs at Titan's Tower, and they're talking about the fact that there's a force field. The doctor lady's neighbor's still there, talking about Batman, talking about you might have to get the parasite out of him. That's the only way to make this work. And this is where, if you hadn't read Beast World issue 3, I think a lot of stuff here would have felt kind of abrupt, because in fact, I even by accident referenced this when we were talking about Beast World there. I said we see that the kids are watching Teen Titans Go, but that wasn't in that issue. It's in this issue.
It's in this one. That's right. Cool, because I went through and started looking, and I was like, I don't see the Teen Titan stuff, but we moved on so quick.
To be fair, I think we did a good job of not crossing the streams, aside from that one little slip, and kept these two separate. But that did, that just shows you how much this naturally follows on and feels like the next chapter. So the big thing that happens here is that what's his face? Tempest.
Garth.
he shows up, and because he's got credentials to get into the building, he can bring down the force field. So that they all start panicking. That's they worry about the kids because the kids are in the lounge, and it's like, okay, we have to do something about him. We have to deal with that. Meanwhile, the other Titans are around. Like Wally is with Bart, and they have to keep doing stuff because they're evacuating Kandak. Donna has to keep a hold of Garrow in the space. So the others, though, Raven, Cyborg, and Starfire, are like, okay, we're on our way. In fact, Starfire specifically says, hey, there's other people here to take care of Black Adam, and we see a little cameo from Shazam and Mary Marvel, which was which was nice because obviously they've got their own stuff going on right now. So yeah, so we have a lot of action in Titans Tower with Nightwing and Babs fighting various monster people and whatnot. And interestingly, Brother Eternity stumbles onto Wolf Batman, and he's got such a shitty grin in his face.
And still the fact that even in his beast form, Bruce gives him a growl, right? So he might still be out of his mind and under kind of the influence of Garrow. He still doesn't like Brother Eternity.
Absolutely.
Which is a nice touch, knowing that Brother Eternity set out the Necrostar, right? So like...
which he's pissed about, by the way. He's pissed that his Necrostar was defeated, and now this Garrow shit's going on. He's coming to Titan's Tower because he wants to sort this mess out. So water starts flooding the place, and they're like, shit, that's Tempest. Because obviously he likes water. He is an Aqua character after all. And it looks like a spore goes into Nightwing. And the only reason why I say it looks like, because it definitely is getting in his mouth, the way we sort of end the page with the start of the effect happening, and then we don't see him again for the rest of the issue, does make me think that maybe next issue, we might see someone just grab it and pull it out at the last second before, because we don't see him transform. We see his eye change a little bit in a close-up panel. But,
it looks like a cat's eye, right? But
we don't see like a full transformation, and I wonder if we're going to like quickly reverse that next issue. But I think what's so neat about this is not only does it feel like the natural next chapter to Beast World, and it feels kind of essential, honestly, given what happens in it. If Nightwing has turned, that's going to be really important. And even the fact that all the characters who were in Titan's Tower and Beast World have now been attacked by Tempest and they're now evacuating and they're dealing with all this shit, it feels important for the ongoing story. But I think what I really think's genius about how this has been constructed is that Starfire then shows up and runs into Brother Eternity. The fact that we're dealing with all this Brother Eternity stuff in the Titans issue makes a lot of sense, because if you're reading Titans, this feels like you're paying off all the stuff that we've been doing in the ongoing book, as well as feeling like a part of the event. So I think it's really neat how it feels. It doesn't feel like it's compromising its own ongoing story to be a part of the event, and I think that feels really cool.
Yeah, the Green Lantern books used to do this when they were doing the big stories, right? So like the Sinestro Corps War would be going on, but like the stuff that was happening in Green Lantern Corps was still very relevant to what was happening before the event started. It was still, the personal dynamics and the characters that they were going after before, now that they've their yellow rings and whatnot. So yeah, so give Tom Taylor credit there for this is how he's choosing to handle it.
Yeah, and also Travis Moore's art feels very complimentary to the Meyer art in the main book. It feels like they're not the exact same, of course, but they're very similar styles overall, I'd say.
Yep.
I would probably say I like Meyer's art a little bit more, but you could go out. I could see why you would say otherwise.
Yeah, the Travis Moore has a more, like, there's a more, I don't want to say finished quality, but I don't know. There's something like with the shading, like you said, it's kind of has that roundness that the Ivan Reis art has, So, but yeah, but it just, Travis Moore drawing Starfire, I'm never gonna be mad at. So this was a big win for me.
Yeah. Starfire demands to know who Brother Eternity is and why he knew about the Necrostar and all that stuff. And he basically melts off all of his fake makeup and skin and reveals like his true colors. And the big cliffhanger is that not only is this a Tamaranian, this is Zandir. This is the guy that was looking after her on the planet in the flashback. So,
and it's curious too, because when she goes into in the flashback, when she's been given off to the Citadel and having to learn to fight, right? She's praying to her goddess Exhal, And we had seen in, the first issue of the Beast World that the whole reason Brother Eternity is doing this was like the Necrostar was like one of the Tamaranian old gods, and he was trying to destroy, that the idea of Exhal. So when at the end here, his last, sentence is, "You're gonna give me my blanking god back, princess," and makes it feel like, again, the stuff that happened in Beast World, but also Titans, everything is mattering, right? Yeah. So it's one story that's weaving in and out, and it's handling real well.
This event is part of this, in the same way that Sinestro Corps War and Blackest Night were part of John's Green Lantern run. This is part of Taylor's Titans run. Like, there's no question. This is if there's ever going to be an omnibus, this event has to be in the book with these issues. It's super relevant to all of it. So,
so Evil Tamarani, he's got the Starbolts and stuff too, which, the whole reason Corey has the Starbolts was the experimentation. So what has he done, right? So there's more to him going on, which I like. Anytime we can get more Tamaranians that aren't Blackfire, I'm here for.
Yeah.
So, but maybe she'll show up too. Maybe, maybe there's stuff going on with her, because they did name drop her at the beginning. So
yeah, this was so good. It almost makes me wish that this came out next week, just so that it was like another main chapter of the event on another week, rather than getting what felt like 2 chapters in 1 week. Yep. But what's weird is that I almost think that this was a little bit better than the main chapter, but they both feel equally main chapters of the event. Like, this feels essential to me. So
yeah, it's like 3A, 3B.
It really is. I would recommend anyone reading the event, if they haven't been reading Titans for whatever reason, that they should be picking up these issues that are in between. I mean, I imagine most people reading Beast World probably have been reading Titans, because
I feel if you're reading one Tom Taylor book, you're reading them all.
Probably.
At least that's what's been going on in my comic shop, right? So like, if you in your pull list, if you're pulling one book, they're making sure you get all of them, just because, which is nice. Yeah. So
this is really good. It's funny that on the annual episode we were debating, does Beast World, should that be just sort of counted as part of the Titans run? And I feel like now that we've read these 2 issues this week back to back, I'm like, yeah, it is. It's part of his Titans run. It just is. Like, and I think I really like both these issues, and I think I might have liked this one even a bit more of the 2, mainly just because there was, I guess, more like big moments in this one. Like, it's like the main issue had the big action moments with this Power Girl and all that stuff, but this one had the more sort of like concrete character moments for Starfire and all that stuff. So we're really good. What were you rating Titan 6?
No, this is definitely because I'm biased, because of huge on Corey, but this is a 9. So
yes. I'm just debating, do I stay with the 8.5? It's just a slightly better 8.5, or does it go up to the 9?
Yeah.
I feel like both of them together felt like a 9. I think separately I'm going to give them both 8.5, if that makes any sense. But
no, it does. It's because they both feed off of each other. Yeah. They're stronger together than just apart.
Yeah, reading these 2 together, it was a fantastic chapter of the event. I think either one of them on their own may have felt a bit lacking in one way. I think both of them together back to back, though, which is how I read them pretty much. Yeah. Perfect week of the event. All those World Tour one-shots feel like absolute misery in comparison. So I appreciate it. So yeah, 8.5 for me. Very good. Detective Comics 1080, Ram V writing with Jason Shawn Alexander and Mike Perkins on the art.
So, what a combo. Those two styles, those two go together, I think, better than Alexander and Liam Sharp did last time.
Lamb and tuna fish, I agree.
Yeah. Is that not okay?
That was a I don't know why I made a Big Daddy reference there. I don't know why I did that, but
yeah. We all know you secretly love the Sandman. It's okay.
The Sandman. All right. Okay, so this is the end of this arc. This is the last of the double shipping issues. We start off with Gordon and Selina. They've got Batman, who's unconscious in the back of this van. They're driving out the city. So we start off with a pretty big action sequence, as obviously the bad guys have realized what they've done by this point, and they're chasing them in a van. with a rocket launcher, no less. So we get a big page where the van tumbles over, and Gordon and Selena are getting Batman out and trying to crawl away with him, as Selena's yelling, you're not getting Batman unless you get him over my dead body. And that's when some backup shows up. Obviously, we teased at the end of last issue that Two-Face was going to get involved, and he does show up, and Two-Face is getting involved in large part because, well, he has some beef with the Orgums because they messed with them. That was something way back in the first arc of this run.
Yeah, they tried to delete Two-Face, right? They tried to put the Asmer in Harvey. Harvey ended up letting Two-Face take over, and it got rid of the Asmer, right? But part of that is that Two-Face got to take control fully. So now Harvey's kind of gone, and this is all of Two-Face operating, which I do love, because how he makes his appearance, right, is when Selena yells over my dead body. One of the Orgum guys is like, suit yourself, and then the soldier next to him goes down, and then you look on the Orgum guy, and he's just covered with like laser sights.
I mean, nice little detail. I didn't notice this when I was reading it, but the guy who gets shot actually has a red laser sight in the panel before it. You can see it on his head.
And then you see the coin flipping, right? And that's how he makes his thing. And I just love Two-Face. So the fact that we're getting this version here, it's again Ram V doing these big character beats for all of my favorite characters, anyways.
It's the thing I love that it's been teasing the entire run is that the idea that even the villains of Gotham are part of it, and they're going to defend it just as much as Batman is in some ways. It's a really nice idea, and of course he then detonates the bridge so that the bad guys can't follow their heroes. So yeah, this was all about getting to Talia on the boat, which we'll get to in a minute. We go back to the Orgums though, and Mummy Orgum pulls a bit of a big move here, because Prince Arzin he's not that fussed about losing Batman. He's like, look, we've already corrupted the city as far as we've killed the mask. We don't have to kill the man. Even if he builds himself up and comes back, this city will have changed so much it won't matter. And then she poisons her own son because he's the only one who could have possibly given out any information about what they were doing, and she knows it wasn't anyone else because she basically psychically spies on everyone else except him, because she's the only one that she makes an effort to try and trust. So she really cements herself as being the main villain of the family here. By taking out the arguably somewhat sympathetic son. Great moody stuff. I think one of the things about getting Perkins on art to complement Alexander is I appreciate that they pick someone else with a style that blends with his. Where they both feel dark and moody. They both fit this vibe that this book's been going for the entire run. Whereas, I think when fill-in artists are really bad, it's when like, oh, we're doing, all this stuff with moody and shadows. Oh, we'll get Doc Shaner to do an issue in the middle. Wait, what? I mean, I love Doc Shaner, but he's not going to be that same style. He's going to...
Right, unless there's a story reason that we're going to be doing like a flashback or a flash forward, that we need something completely different, But yeah, just the moodiness from Perkins in these pages and the layouts, how she pours the wine, right? And we'd seen in the last backup, that's how she got into Gotham, right? Was by poisoning the crew of the ship.
Yes.
And leaving the one guy. So you see her pour the wine, and my instinct was like, oh no. And then you see her give it to him and just talk about what their plans are. And it's curious too, is like they said that that engine, the reality engine, is just one of she says many, right? 4.
She said that. She said there was, I think, 5 more, and she name drops a couple of other DC Comics cities. And that once Gotham's been taken, they're going to go and take these other cities as well. So,
but it's Star City and Hub City, all great centers of power, but corrupted from within. So there's a way that they Gotham was just the first, right? It was the prototype for how they're going to take over.
Yeah, I want to compliment a really subtle thing in the art here, particularly in the first 2 pages of this scene. It starts off with them in the balcony, and then she takes them inside for the drink. Is just a simple little thing, is the lines separating the panels and the lines around the panels on those first 2 pages are all red, and the only other red is the wine, it's the drink that's poisoned. And I think it's just a subtle little coloring choice that tells you that red that's in the scene is very important. That's the most important thing in the scene because it matches the lines around all the panels. Yep. It's just a really nice little thing. And then the next page, once he starts to actually feel sick from the poison, then you start getting like big red behind him, and you know, lots more sort of like flourishes, I suppose.
Yeah, the lines to show emphasis are more bold, right? But then after he's drinking and he's going down, the white lines in between are back until it focuses on him, and then within the scene you get the red back. So very, very nice stylistic touch there.
Yeah, just really nice stuff. But then we got Selina and Talia discussing that Batman has to go away. And Selina been like, you better bring him back to me. Like, you know, like, do this right. What's really fun here, again, and this was something we've had for a couple issues now, is just Gordon working with Selina. It's just a really interesting dynamic. And he knows her by name. Like, it's not like she's she's got the mask on and she's hiding who she is. So it's really fun to see that. But
it helps when he's retired from the police, right? You know, he doesn't feel like he's got to maintain that professionalism. He's helping his friend Batman.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more from her perspective. I'm sure she knows from her time with Batman just how important and good Gordon is and how much of an ally he is, that it's not even a question to work with him. But we get this different narration that comes in towards the end of the issue as it's sort of like building up and teasing the rest of the story. It's this sort of just, there's no box, it's just black text with a white outline, as we see kind of a montage, if you will, play out of Talia's boat leaving with Bruce, and we see them fighting off soldiers coming aboard. We see them fighting off a storm. And then Talia's taking Batman in a little canoe because that's all that's left as the ship sinks. And we know that's the last we see of them, I think. And then we come back to Gotham, and it just sort of teases that, no, Gotham is changing. This reality engine is making people forget that Batman exists. They're not even noticing the signal's not been turned on anymore. And the only things that are kind of keeping the idea of Batman a little bit alive is characters like Gordon or Cass, who are fighting people in alleyways and protecting people. Azrael is in his Batsuit trying to remind people that Batman exists.
He's just lighting people on fire with his flaming sword. Like, you know, sometimes he goes, you know, and in the forgotten place, in the abandoned metalworks or the empty houses by the water district, old myths and legends still survive. Sometimes a man is spoken of, and it goes to Azrael, and he's just lighting people on fire. You know, like the crazy guy. But I was wondering who was doing was this just like a big, like, the narration, because it gets revealed in a couple pages.
Before we get to that, I just want to mention the panel at the bottom of that page, which is like a homeless mum and son. And he's asking, like, why does he dress as a bat? And she's like, oh, there's a story, but I think I've forgotten it. And it's showing you that even people who know who Batman are trying to, are starting to really forget it. It's something that's taking effect. So it's sort of setting this idea that when Batman comes back, he's going to have to make the city remember to fear the Batman. And I think that's an interesting idea.
I really like that because as this narration is going, right, it seems like it's outset from everything. So... because they're looking at it almost at like from a third person perspective, right? Because they're talking about Gordon and then Cass and then Azrael and stuff. So it was just like, okay, well, what big things are at play here? You know, who's setting the stage for Gotham? You know, and at first I thought, I was like, well, is this like Alfred? Is Alfred looking on? You know, is this like his spirit wondering what's going to happen to Bruce? And I whiffed big time because it's not.
No, so we find out that it's Dr. Hurt and Flamingo talking to each other, and basically Dr. Hurt's like, okay, like everything that's happened to Batman, he has to build himself back up, and when he does build himself back up, it's going to be it's going to be Barbatos, the one that I've wanted to be like unleashed the whole time. And of course, we've had this imagery the whole run of like Barbatos being a representation of the darker side of Batman inside of himself. So we get this gorgeous splash page going back to Talia on the canoe with Batman lying in this little boat. But instead of Batman, it's Barbatos lying in the boat. So you get this red bat demon in the boat.
Well, and the way that she's on it, she looks like a ferryman of the dead. right? It's very of that, she's at the front of the boat. She has the long stick to guide it.
Yeah, I'm sure that is not unintentional. That is...
Oh, not 100%.
Yeah.
And so, the idea that this was the son that Dr. Hurt, who claims to be the father of Batman, right? When Dr. Hurt's origin is that he was like a psychologist that basically wanted to control Batman, and so he put in these false memories and all this other stuff. And it was this issue that kind of made me realize that Ram V this is almost an homage to Morrison's run on Batman, with the stylistics, with the breaking down of Batman, the place that Bruce is at the beginning where he's having panic attacks, right? He's not feeling like himself. And it's not all to get to this point, but it's basically, this has been Ram V's breakdown of Batman to build him back up and almost put him in a better place. So I'm curious to see where this goes. Like, does Barbados take over? Is Bruce going to win out? Like, are they going to be able to finally pull the asthma out of him? And he's going to be able to retrain? Because I'm assuming they're going to Talia's dad, right? Because is Roz back, or is Roz still dead? I can't remember.
Well, he was in the Robin book, right? That was after all the...
But then remember with Deathstroke, they killed him, and that was that part, the Deathstroke Batman crossover. But I can't remember if they brought him back yet or not. So, but I'm wondering if she's heading for like Lazarus Pity type stuff, because Bruce isn't actually dead though. So,
yeah, I don't know. Like, that feels like the obvious thing to think, but I feel like it could be something more specific because he's not dead. It's not like you could see it as spiritually as him coming back to life,
right,
but he's not actually physically dead.
Right.
So wherever she's taking him, though, he's probably going to be reborn, at least spiritually, if not physically.
What she's gonna do is take him to a cave where there's a prison, and he's gonna hang him on a rope, and it's gonna heal his back. And he's gonna come back.
The final scene of the book, though, sets up an offshoot to, which was a very cool plot, actually. Right before Batman get taken over by the asthma, we had that detective chasing him through the streets and kind of putting two and two together and figuring out who he was, and then he got shot in the back by his partner. Well, Montoya is following up on this and is wondering why this good detective was killed and why he was killed at the gravesite of Alfred Pennyworth. And we see her suiting up as the question at the end here. So, yeah, very cool.
Hey, maybe it's a Ram V question book. I would love that. If we could do the Denny O'Neil type of like Zen.
I mean,
question.
I'm not again. I think you're jumping the gun. I think this is just a plot for detective, but
no. But what I'm saying is, after seeing how he handles this right here, these last 2 pages, the idea of him doing a question book with Renee, doing kind of that Zen kind of stuff, and you can get the Vigil popping up through there. That's something I didn't think about until just right now. I think that would be super cool. But
I mean, yeah, obviously I'm down for a Ram V question book. I just don't think this means that yet. I think this is just.
Oh yeah, no.
This is a plot that's going to be followed up in this book, which is cool. In fact, it means it's something that we may be able to do whilst Batman's, building himself back up elsewhere. Maybe the plot we get in Gotham, aside from obviously Mummy Orgum, is Renee doing this investigation, which might actually end up tying back in because obviously he was
working.
So. Yeah, no, very good. This run's been fantastic. I think this arc of stealing Batman's body to save him from the hanging, I think it's been a really great read. I think the double shipping for it did probably help the pacing. I think it was a really good contained story that was playing out. Like, I almost felt like each issue was only taking place over a few minutes. So, but its nature, I think, worked for the quicker schedule. Whether or not they decided to do it quickly because of that, or he wrote it that way because he knew it was double shipping, I don't know. But either way, it was a perfect match.
The way that it was able to shift gears and be not completely different from what was before it, but like you said, it changed the pace and the tone. I went from kind of this gothic horror to a heist, and now it's kind of back on that gothic horror vibe. So kudos to the creative teams here.
Yeah. No, fantastic. I love the build up. It feels like a big deal that Batman has to build himself up, which I suspect will be an arc before we get the final arc.
Yeah.
And because we know we're getting an annual and a special as part of the run, it means that this next arc could be 6 issues, and then or alternatively it could be 5 issues and an annual, and then the final arc will be 5 issues and a special, or 4 issues and both the special and the annual. I don't know how it's going to break down, but either way, there's room for 2 arcs left in the run, and I'm curious to see how that happens. So really good stuff. All right, what are you giving Detective 1008?
You don't want to talk about the backup?
Oh, I never read it. You can talk about it.
So the backup real quick is just, it goes to Damian and about the story that it was very early on in the run where Talia had told him the story of the Grim Soldier, Farhad, and how he went across the desert for his love, and by the time he got back, his love had died. And that was something that had always stuck with Damian. And so he starts having nightmares about the beloved that had died. And so he's seeing her as this walking skeleton covered in like her garb. And it basically goes to that Damian is going to have to choose one day if he's a bat or an Al Ghul. And so he starts having these nightmares. He's in the bat cave and it's like melting, which looks really cool. But his mom brought in like all the best people to teach him how to control his dreams. And so he learns how to essentially lucid dream, and he faces her down and he picks it. He's going to choose to be Robin. At the end, she goes, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Monsters are real. The Grim Soldier's not. And she, in the dream, picks him up and like puts her in his eye. And Damien's like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to prove everybody wrong, because, and it goes and he ends up becoming Batman, like from, the Batman in the trench coat from Batman 666. And he says, and I'm better than you. And then he wakes up from the dream and the beloved, the skeleton lady is staring at him from the hallway. And he looks at it, he goes, oh no, that's just, it's coming back to me. That's just a shadow. I'm not afraid of shadows. I'm still Damian Wayne. But at the end of the day, he goes, tonight he's still but 10 years old and he's still afraid. And so it was a very nice little tone, kind of like this exercise in tone for where Damian's at in all of this, right? It's like his internal struggle and, ultimately his motivation to be better than Batman and bigger than all of this. So Dan Waters, again, doing fantastic work with Christopher Mitten as the artist. So, but a really nice backup. So, so rating the whole thing.
Just on the backup, to confess why I didn't read it, is that I didn't like the look of the art. So I just noped out of it.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, I thought the art was fine. It's a little, there's a bit of a sketchiness to it. Like there's not like clean lines, but I feel like it adds to that whole dreamlike scenario of it. But yeah, so as a whole, the book's at 8.5.
Yeah, obviously I'm just rating the main story. It's, I think 8. It's almost at that 9. I think I'm going to give the 8.5 as well. But loving the run though. I love what it sets up, and I think the fun of the them getting away in the van at the start and like just narrowly getting away because Two-Face intervenes, like that stuff was really fun. But then it did all this stuff in the back half to set up all of this going forward, like the main villain, where Batman's going to recuperate, some other possible threats, some big thematic things, really good stuff. Action Comics 1060, Philip Kennedy Johnson with Max Raynor on the art. So this is the final issue of Johnson's run on Action Comics. Whether or not he ends up doing something super related elsewhere down the line remains to be seen, but this is wrapping up his current story and indeed his tenure on Action, which has been on for a while. This has been a two-year run, more or less.
I mean, started with right before Future State, right? So he had the Superman issues with John and Clark.
Yeah, and that was January and February 2022. So 2 years. So exactly 2 years actually. So we ended the last time obviously with Superman and co going off to Earth Al Ghul because that's where Otho was. Otho trying to be manipulated by Sister Shadow to try and become an Al Ghul. And to be honest, by the end of the issue, it kind of sounds like she wants to take her body for herself.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I was getting. But so the issue goes in quite quick despite the fact that it's got the bigger page count being an annual. We get some fighting here. We get Superman, Etrigan, and Bloodwind.
Bloodwind. Yep.
That's the one. They help some people who are being targeted by bad guys on this Earth and ask where to find the big dogs, as it were. And they go off and search for Otho, who's training with her sword and all the rest of it. This is like we see them have their full big army. They've got blimps, they've got bat monsters and all sorts of troops under their order, and we get some action with that. But ultimately, like the finale of this has to take place back on our Earth, right? It has to be back on. Otho doesn't betray Superman the way that Sister Shadow thinks she's going to. Of course she doesn't. And it's a very sweet moment when Clark kind of, one refers to himself as her father because we're at that point now. But he calls her his fearless little star child. So, all very sweet. But she effectively, Sister Shadow that is, wants to come back and take Earth Zero. So all of her ships, all of her forces are going towards Earth Zero, which, as we see when we cut back to there, the rest of the super family are dealing with all the Blue Earthers causing chaos and chasing after alien immigrants in Metropolis, and they're having to try and fight them down. And then we get I'm getting flashbacks to the start of Rebel Moon here, sadly, but a portal opens in the sky and the big ship from Earth Al Ghul comes through it. But yeah, so this is where the interesting narrative thing takes place, which is this is where all the Blue Earthers who have been recruited to be part of Sister Shadow's army realize that she herself is bringing an army of aliens to take over this Earth, and the super family are like, look, if you really want to protect Earth, then how about you fight with us to stop this invading force, because they're actually the enemy. Supergirl gives them this little speech, and sure enough, we get them all helping the super family to fight off this army of bat monsters. I don't even know why they have bat monsters. That's actually kind of out of nowhere. I guess because
it's Bruce and Talia's daughter.
I
that's
guess
what I'm going down. And she does magic, so why not? You're using the thing. I just, as much as I love Philip Kennedy Johnson, and I know this is probably between a rock and a hard place, right? I just his run to go out on a multiversal invasion, kind of not what I wanted. I really liked the whole idea of Blue Earth and what it stood for, and her just to be revealed to be an alternate version of Damian, right? Kind of a letdown. And I like a lot of the stuff that happened in here. It's a very good read. It's just kind of disappointing this is how it ends.
It's a lot more comic booky than the rest of his run's been.
Yeah. And I like a lot of stuff here, like with Connor talking to one of the Blue Earthers, where he's like, if you're gonna help us, you gotta help us. You can't just you gotta watch for bystanders. You can't just go and do what you want.
Yeah, because he punches something and debris almost hits like a civilian or something, and he's like, hey, you got to watch for everyone else.
And that's where the Johnson stuff starts to come through with the whole idea of Superman standing for something. It's not just he's not just the defender of Metropolis. He's the defender of people. And so
and I got feels as well when Otho and Ozil are reunited. I feel like because they were actually separated for a bit here, I actually finally learned which one was which.
Yeah, and so I do like that Ozil comes and he's looking for his sister, and he's remembering the story that Kara had told him about Starchild and Red Sun, and that story plays out, right? We're getting flashes of it as he's going and looking for her, to the point where he, faces down Sister Shadow in her big demon form, to lead to Clark and Otho to come back. I like that whole entire sequence. Like that's also very, very Philip Kennedy Johnson, with how it's in what am I looking for? It's weaving in that mythology that's with these characters into what's going on in this story. And yeah, it makes for a good action sequence. The poor Daily Planet globe, though, always takes a hit. I don't think there's an attack on Metropolis where, unless it does take a hit. But yeah, when Clark shows up and is like, get your hands off of my family, that's another great moment. So
yeah, obviously Etrigan, like at the end of all this, banishes Sister Shadow away, and she's sort of yelling, "I'm not done. I'm still coming for you," which does make me think maybe there'll be a follow up somewhere to this by Johnson. Maybe he's setting the seeds for something else down the line. But the final scene, actually, which is after the fight, arguably is one of the best parts of the whole book, which is this ex-con is working at a construction site, and his son comes over for lunch, and they have lunch together, and he's asking his dad if do you miss your previous life doing bad stuff, and he's like, no, because now I'm building the city rather than taking it apart. Now I'm helping making it a home, and gives a little speech about Superman, and how Superman was trying to save him as much as he was trying to save the people he was hurting. And it all builds up to this big splash page at the end, and says that Superman reminds us that the world's better with us in it. So it's not just about the world being better because Superman's there. It's about Superman making us all better for ourselves. So
yeah, Superman leads by example, and he knows. We've got a lot of this in Philip Kennedy Johnson's run that he does things to help people, not just to be a hero, right? Like the Metallo stuff, right? It's his compassion to Metallo that eventually leads to them winning that big fight, and stuff. And so, and this character, I kind of had forgotten about him, but this is the guy that checks in with Superman, or Superman goes and checks in with him to see how he's doing, on the construction site. That was like it during the Action Comics run, once he gets back from War World.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remembered that. I just couldn't. I don't know if you ever knew his name. Yeah, I don't know if you ever knew his name, but this was one of these moments where I was like, this is a really good few pages, but it does kind of feel like going to this right after the fight was done felt a little rushed, and it makes me wonder if Johnson did find out kind of last minute that his run would be ending in 3 or 4 issues, and he would be like, oh shit, I have to quickly pull this together and wrap it up. Like I say, I mean, I do hope there's maybe some follow up down the line in the form of a mini or something, whatever he may end up on. But if not, then I just hope Johnson does end up with another book at DC. Obviously, he's doing Green Lantern War Journal, and that's been very good so far. But I absolutely hope he gets another book in the near future, because this has been great stuff.
Yeah, so that reminds me, when we were talking about Green Lantern War Journal the other week, and we had the Derlin guy. I found out via Twitter as I was scrolling through. That's the same guy that Johnson used in the War World arc that represents the United Planets. So he's running things too. So I feel like Johnson's built him up as this overall big bad across his runs, and how he has his hands in different things. But he was the guy that was responsible for the United Planets taking over the Green Lantern Corps.
Interesting.
So, there's some space in between those that I had forgot, but luckily some comic book person on Twitter pointed that out. I was like, oh, okay.
I mean,
it makes a lot of sense.
At the very least, then, he's got some running through lines through all of these different books, which some writers do when they're doing different books at the same company. Pie in the sky could be that maybe whatever summer event we're getting next year, maybe Johnson's the one doing it, and like all this is building up to something big like that. But I'm not necessarily thinking that's the case. Like, that feels like it's a little bit of a reach, but we could see where some of this stuff goes. I just hope Johnson stays in the DC camp. The fact that he's still got a book going right now obviously is a good sign, but and that just started recently as well. But I hope we get a bit more. I think this Action Comics run's been fantastic. It's definitely like maybe ended on the not weak, but on the weaker end of its own scale, because Warworld,
like a downbeat, right?
Yeah,
because
Warworld was so fantastic, and all the stuff early on was so next level, and I really enjoyed the arc Metallo, and I've enjoyed kind of the build to some of this Blue Earther stuff, but I would just say that this final, 4 issues or so in this annual have just felt a little bit like we're rushing to a finish, and I don't necessarily think that's on him per se. That could just be a case of he thought he had,
more issues to go.
He thought maybe he had another 6 issues after that to finish his story, and then he was like, no, you don't. This is all you've got. That's what it feels like. Maybe that's not the case at all. Maybe this is just the way it is, and we're making an excuse, but it certainly does feel a little bit rushed at the end here. But there's a lot of good stuff in here, though. I loved how they handled the stuff with the kids. I kind of agree that the whole, other dimension with an army coming through a portal does feel like it doesn't need to be there. But hey, like you say, it's a pretty solid read. It went in very quickly, despite the fact that it's a 40-page book, and it did give us some nice send-off moments. And that final scene with the dad and the son's very good.
I was gonna say, that little epilogue that it has really pulls it back together, where it pulled it from me going like, okay, that was fine, but it was kind of unceremoniously just ending. And then when we get to him again, I was like, oh, okay, this is what he's doing. He's, reminding us of how the average person sees Superman, which is how he started, right? With the future state stuff, where that girl was going to the Superman Museum in Smallville, and it was how the average person would look at it. So I do like that he was able to, bring it back around that way. And let's say this is the only work he gets to do with Superman. I feel like it's still a pretty good word to go out on in perspective. So, but yeah, it's again a bit disappointing, but still a good read. Like, just wish there were things that happened differently. That's all.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Action Comics Annual?
I'm going to give this, after all that, I'm still going to give this an 8.
Yeah, I was thinking 8. It's it's not the peak of the run by any means, but it's still a really solid, put-together issue with a lot of nice moments for the characters. I do like them convincing the Blue Earthers to work with them. I think that's an interesting place to take it, and the epilogue's very good. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 for me as well. So that is the Action Comics Annual. Next up, we have The Flash, Issue 4, Legacy 804, Cy Spurrier writing with Mike Deodato Jr. on the art. So this issue is an interesting one. I think, we continue this idea that Wally found this place that was very vague as to what it actually was, but it's like this thing that exists outside of time. Although this issue makes it feel more like it's in his own head, kinda. Like it's a really ethereal idea.
It's his happy place almost, or his Zen place, where it's the place in between thoughts. And I'm like, all right, this is getting a little bit too heady for me.
It's an interesting concept. Irie kind of can tell that something's not quite right, and then when she goes to try and talk to her dad late at night, he kind of fades away as if he was never really there, almost like he was projecting himself into the room. So this book splits into 2 things. You've got Wally in his speedster garden that's in his head or somewhere else, and seemingly as we read through that, it's like he forgets a lot of the details of who he is and what his family is when he's here. It's like it all fades away. And it gets kind of meta at one point where he's grabbing his own speech or his own thought bubbles and trying to sort of hold them to remember who he is. But then this mysterious presence made up of lines shows up and starts talking to him and discussing what this place is and how he's leaving things behind. So that's the one side of the book. The other side of the book is that Irie goes investigating based on all the stuff that was in the house about these speedster things going on, and ends up investigating, and she runs into Liberty Bell, which is...
So, as a fan of Jesse Quick, that's Jesse Quick. Liberty Bell's when she wears the blue and
I know.
channels her mom's powers. So,
Yeah. I mean, they point it out that it's Jessie, and Irie even points out that her hair's been cut because she's got this short blonde hair now. You sound upset by this, Matt.
Yeah, because so the fact that she's Jessie Quick and Liberty Bell's daughter, right? That's her thing. But her name is also Jessie Quick. Like she takes her dad's name. So this costume, though, when she's Liberty Bell, her power set's completely different, right? She gets her mom's super strength and that type of stuff, and it's not a different identity, but a whole different vibe. To compare it to wrestling, right? It's dude love versus mankind. Same guy, different vibe, And so when Irie calls her Liberty Bell, I was like, okay, I get it. Technically, she's not wrong, but this is Jessie Quick, So, which is, as Jesse Chambers.
I feel like you're nitpicking here a little bit because I feel like Irie only says Liberty Bell because Jessie says Thunderheart. Like it's bolded.
But
it's bolded. But what?
That's her superhero name. That's it. When she has the speed powers, that's not Liberty Bell. That's my point. So when she's the speedster, that's Jessie.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter to Irie though. Irie is just hitting her back with her other name or alternate name. That's all that's happening here.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I feel like you're just being nerdy here.
Because I love the follow-up moment where because I feel like we've gotten the whole point that that Jessie is Irie's that's not her idol, but that's who she looks up to in the family. You know how Wally looked up to Barry? You get the same vibe of Irie to Jessie, and just so when she goes like, "Oh my God, I love the jacket," so it pays off for that moment. But just the Jessie Chambers fan of me is that was a slight nitpick.
I never even thought about this. Like I did not think we'd be spending 2 minutes of the review talking about this panel.
And here's that, because I like all of this stuff a lot more than the stuff that we got going on with Wally.
I agree with
design, that. But these two bouncing off of each other and investigating something that's going on in Central, a lot more worth the read than the really weird stuff.
Well, no, but I think that is by design, but I think it's also reassuring that he's handling these other characters so well, and it is really fun to see Irie and Liberty Bell, or sorry, Jessie Quick, bouncing off of each other, solving crimes. They investigate basically a speed junkie. Someone takes a shot of something and they've got speed powers, so they chase after her, and as they investigate, throughout the rest of the issue, they're chasing this woman who's not really used to handling the powers, obviously, so she's running through cars and causing chaos, and the girls are chasing after her. Irie actually, the woman tries to stab them, and Irie phases so that the woman just goes through her, but also pickpockets her injector thing as she does so, and Jessie's very impressed by this, and they go speeding off to try and solve the crime and see what's going on. And it turns out that Mirror Master's behind it, and he's also been souped up. He's the second rogue I think we've seen now who's got a beefier costume and seems like he's got some upgrades from somewhere. So that's where that comes to a head. And the way this ties into the Wally story is that Wally is forgetting his own family as he's talking to this mysterious voice. But then as he's looking around at these statues of all the speedsters, he's noticing that every time he looks away and looks back, they've changed. It's like they've moved into a different position. And we see one of Irie, and it's kind of like he's starting to get a sense that there's something not right. Like something's, she's in trouble, and he has to go and help, and he should be there to help. So this mind place is kind of becoming this thing where it's becoming this crutch that he's going to, and it's... it does almost feel like a metaphor for someone who is addicted to drugs or is not paying attention to the life around them and the people around them. But he snaps out of it just in time to go and help her, and he darts her out of the building as it explodes. And Jessie feels quite bad about this because she's repeatedly been like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't take you to this. I should take you home and go and investigate this myself." And she almost gets blown up for her troubles. So I think I like this issue quite a bit. The Wally stuff definitely is a bit weird, and what he's doing with this mind place is definitely odd. But I think the other side of the plot was very enjoyable. I loved Irie and Jesse getting so much time, and them being more prominent supporting characters in the book is something I quite like. And it grounded the issue as a whole. I think if you're going to do something as weird as what you did with Wally in this issue, where he's in this weird mind place, I think you ground it by having just a good story for, you know, in the B plot. And arguably it's not even the B plot. You could argue that their story is the A plot, because it probably gets more page time than the Wally stuff does. But seeing how it interacts, and it's kind of teaching us some of the rules of this place, and how the echoes of it are sort of manifesting in the statues in his mind place. You know, it's setting up some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like he is while he's there, he's completely tapped into the Speed Force, because he's seeing people that are touched by the Speed Force, right? It's Jesse, it's Irie, Linda's there with the new baby, who I'm forgetting the name of. And so, yeah, it's just very, you know, because there's this other page where he's looking around, and the line person is talking to him, and Wally is like, well, what lies deeper than time or space? And the line person really starts to come together, and it says concept, of course, right? So it's almost like, again, this metaphysical place between places that seemingly only Wally can access. And, you know, so who knows what this means going forward, because we still have the whole idea that the Speed Force, like, there's a give and a take with the Speed Force, right? That they weren't aware of before this, right? That every time they use it, it's tapping into something somewhere else. And because when in one of the last two issues, when him and Max were in this spot, Bart was running around, and it looked like it was causing like chaos, right?
Yeah,
like a tornado. So, yeah, I just don't know what to make of this Zen Garden. It's a very, I can't wrap my head around it. So, I mean, kudos on Spurrier for doing that, because I don't think we're supposed to yet.
I mean, I think the more the issue went on, the more, at least, it felt like it was establishing its rules to some extent and how it connects to the real world. And it definitely felt like a place where Wally could get lost in here forever if he loses all connection to the real world. Which is why I kind of linked it to the idea of like someone like skirting the responsibilities and being addicted to something and staying away from the responsibilities. Also, Mirror Master tries to kill Ivory with a grenade, which I thought was quite dark in a fun way. Like, he's like, I'm just going to try and kill the Flash's kid with this grenade. And obviously, you know, Wally shows up and helps her. And I feel like she'd have probably gotten out of there on her own if not, but it's just a fun dark moment. It's an interesting arc that Spurrier's doing here, because I do feel like some of the elements are very obtuse, but I think this issue, it got the balance right between the weird and the other characters grounding everything else that's going on. So I'm still in, and I still really like the art. I think Deodato Jr.'s art's very nice here.
That line person peeking out the first, when you see him start to materialize, and it looks like they're peeking through blinds, it's very creepy, right? Very unsettling. But the more time Wally spends there, and the more time it starts to take on more human attributes, it stops being creepy and just starts being more interesting. So yeah, Deodato's art really runs that gamut of foreboding to not foreboding, and then just all he draws the Speed Force, like not Speed Force, but like the act of them running. So when they're chasing the girl that doesn't, you know, is not as familiar with the Speed Force drug,
the Speed Junkie. Yeah,
the Speed Junkie. When they do that, Deodato's art looks fantastic. Like Irie and Jesse chasing them down, all that whole action sequence looks awesome.
Yeah, no, I really like all that stuff, and it's still got that overall layout design where it's like the panels, are bleeding into the border, with its design. It really gives it this sense of, and it kind of, I suppose, fits into this idea of the space between spaces, is that some of the panels go into the space where there's not meant to be, panels. But they're kind of separate because they're still got borders. It's an interesting overall look, and it's been consistently there since the start of the run. And I suppose we can rule out the possibility as well that this isn't just something that's happening to Wally naturally or because of the Speed Force or because of himself. Like this person made up of lines that forms a human looking face. This could be a menace. This could be a villain of some sort, either a new villain or maybe an old villain who's figured out a way to do this and is doing this to Wally. That's entirely possible.
Well, because remember he had the interaction. He first got here because he had the interaction with those alien beings, right? When they were dealing with the gorillas in Grodd, I forget what they were called, but it happened after that. So maybe this is something that they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I'm getting more footing as I read more of the arc, but it's a dangerous game to play though, is to write a comic where I feel like we have to get to that point where it's intentionally kind of making us feel like we don't have a good solid understanding of what the hell's happening. But I feel like we're getting there, and if it can kind of stick the landing, I think it'll all be worth it. But it's just a question of like, is this all going to feel like it clicks together when we get to the end of this first arc, assuming that's when it has to click together. Maybe it's not meant to click together till the end of the second arc for all we know, but definitely I'm definitely fascinated by what it's doing. I actually left this issue to last. This was last, and I think I left it to last because I like the previous issues of this run have been kind of, they've all been interesting, but one or two of them have been a little bit of a tougher read. I think this one read fairly well, regardless of the weird stuff in the main palace place. But I don't know. I find myself oddly drawn to this. Like, there's something interesting going on here, and I'm enjoying a lot of how the book's constructed. But I also can't deny that there's definitely there's a little bit of a hope that this is all going to feel better as it goes, and I think it kind of is so far. But definitely curious. I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, not so much going on, but so much that I feel like what they say in jazz music, right? It's not the notes you play, it's the notes you don't play. I feel like it's not what's on the page, it's it's not what's on the page, it's what's not on the page.
Yeah.
Here that is drawing me in. It's like, what is this? What's Spurrier saying about the the Flash and the family and all of this other stuff? Because he's really nailing the family aspect of it, I feel.
Yeah.
But here we go, and here I'm looking through other the future issues to try to get a beat on stuff, and there's just it's seeming like this person made of lions is called the Resident. Maybe we'll see. That's in the next issue. They name drop that. So
okay.
But yeah, I do like the mysteries afoot. I feel like elongated man right now.
I'm still in. I'm still super fascinated by what's going on. Even if it's not as easy a book to just jump in and love like other books are.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were you rating the Flash issue for, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'm tempted to just go with the 8 on this, actually. I've probably liked this issue the most. I think because there was a lot less let's try and talk about the science of the portals and why things are coming here. There's a lot less talking with Mr. Terrific about stuff like that. I think that benefited this issue. And Irie and Jesse getting a bit more of a spotlight was a nice pairing to have. So also at one point Irie shouts out Femme Flash Force or something like that, which I thought was funny. So yeah. All right, 8 out of 10 from me, 7.5 from you. Cool. Green Arrow issue 7, Legacy 340. Joshua Williamson writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico and Trevor hairsine on the art. This was you, Matt, so you take it away.
Yeah, so this was supposed to be a mini series, and famously wasn't digging the whole Ollie fighting his way back through time and whatever to find his family, and it ended all up being Merlin and his machinations to keep him away from his family. But this issue is Ollie coming back in finding out, everything that he's missed since, and how all these other heroes are doing different things. And so the I always mess this up. Giandomenico, the art is fantastic. Like, big fan of his on Flash and other spots that we've seen. Him drawing Green Arrow it's a good look, I will say. But it starts with this really cool layout of Ollie through different times, and how he's always been on the Justice League, right? And he was there from the beginning. And that's where he met Canary. It's where he's made friends. And he says, I even used to bankroll it at one time. And he pulls up in his new car that he's got since he's been back to the Hollow Justice, and it's empty, right? And he's trying to figure out what's going on with the Justice League. So he goes and talks to Bruce, and Bruce is like, yeah, no, we have a lot of stuff going on. We had to disband it, and everything. Him and, of course, Bruce have words because they don't ever get along. He goes over to check with Clark, and Clark's telling him about Luthor and how Luthor's in jail and has left the company to him, and now it's Supercore, which Ollie's like, well, that's weird, but all right, whatever. Well, tell me about Waller, right? So that sends him to talk to Diana, and she's on the run from the Axe people. So she's in her invisible jet. Ollie's in one of his, aero jets, and they're talking over the comms about, what's going on with her. And don't forget that Waller has Roy, right? That's where issue 6 ended. So he's also trying to figure out where Roy is. And Ollie goes to check with all these other members of the Justice League. He goes to Black Adam, who doesn't remember him, which is quite funny. And, Arthur has his daughter. And he goes to talk to Barry because him and Barry are friendly. And he's like, oh, I'm taking a break right now. And everyone's kind of being dismissive until he goes and talks to Hal. And so this is where, because it's Trevor hairsine also on art, so the hairsine art takes over. And it stops looking as good as the Giandomenico, but they're overlooking these planes landing, and Hal's talking about how everything's complicated right now. And this is when I realized that this issue is just basically Williamson giving a rundown of all the stuff that's been going on in the DC universe, which seems like a chore to read, but the way that he has Ollie reacting to everything kind of makes it worth it. And Hal even points out to Ollie, he's like, you're doing all this for your family, but out of everybody, you're the one that was kind of like the freewheeling bachelor. I never took you as a family man. Back in the day, you always teased me and Carol of having a kid flying around, and they had talking about these different, the different lanterns. Like, if they had a kid, what would they call them? And then Ollie brings up Teen Lantern, and Hal just kind of off the cuff, and it also shows that how, I forgot Teen Lantern was a character, right? And Hal's just like, yeah, she was more Simon and John's sidekick. So it's kind of, super dismissive, but they get a call that, let's see, who's going on. There's some rogue Kuns that are coming into the airspace, so they get the Green Lantern and Green Arrow back together, which leads to a really nice page of them, all bathed in green light. And then Ollie goes back to his little hideout. There's a red sky, which is very curious because, red skies seem to be the sign of a crisis. But he's talking to Connor Hawk about everything that's been going on, and it's still not sitting right with him that he can't track down Waller. Like, for someone that's always got her hands in everything, the fact that she made a deal with Merlin and she's in hiding, where she's so far under the radar, it's not sitting well with him, and he feels that she has something to do with Roy, because he goes, if we find Roy, we'll find Waller. And over his hideout that he's at, there's this, like a skylight, and you can see this figure that looks like they're wearing a cape. So you're like, oh, Is this Batman? Is this, any number? Is this Vertigo? Any number of Green Arrow guys? And it's not. And you just, it goes into a full page and it's onomatopoeia, and just saying crash. And that's where the issue ends. But yeah, it's one of those issues. It's just, what's going on in the DC universe right now, but it's also Ollie talking with all of the Justice League and getting a beat on everything, which is kind of nice from where we were. There's no time jumping. I prefer Green Arrow when it's a lot more grounded, and this was it. Despite just being kind of a whip around the DCU issue, and not so much, not a lot of character interactions, or not interactions, not a lot of character plots or anything. But seeing Onomatopoeia show up at the end is pretty exciting. I mean, that is a villain that is pretty unique, and we only really see with Green Arrow. Like, I think is it a Kevin Smith creation? Because I think I remember him showing up in one of the Kevin Smith Batman books, but since then I haven't seen Onomatopoeia. So, but yeah, art is really good when Giandomenico. It's fine when it's hairsine. Like, again, that Green Lantern, Green Arrow, them going off to deal with the rogue aliens, looks pretty nice, but still, hairsine's a taste thing for me. But the Giandomenico art really is a highlight of this one. So I'll give this a 7 out of 10.
All right, cool. So you liked it more than...
Yeah, it's better than what we've read. I will up to that point. Well, me. It's better than the first 6 issues, I feel, just because of what it's doing, and I don't know how much longer it can keep going unless we get an Ollie versus Waller, showdown soon. It just kind of feels like it's waiting, right? Like wading through the waters of the DC universe. So, but yeah.
Okay. The Penguin, issue 5, Tom King writing with Rafael de Latorre on the art. Mm-hmm. So, Penguin's been recruiting people for his, takeover of Gotham, and this seems to be the final issue of that happening. This is because the issue ends with him saying, "We're ready for Gotham, but is Gotham ready for us?" Mm-hmm. So it seems like we're at that point now. But yeah, we have one final recruitment issue, and it very much focuses on this character, Black Spider. Mm-hmm. In the book, we don't even see Penguin till the very final page. We hear his voice, quote
and
unquote.
From a first person, which I did like too. It's like when he's talking to the person across the table, we get his speech bubbles, but there's no arrows to him, which I think is a nice touch too.
Yeah. It almost feels omnipotent.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. He is omnipotent, and that's kind of the vibe that you get with the Penguin. He feels like a higher power, if you will.
So, yeah, it's basically this character, Black Spider, who's not a new character. I've heard of him, but he's, I couldn't tell you much about him. But he's effectively, as we get to the end, we realize what this all is. He's telling Penguin the story as to why he's motivated to be on Penguin's side. So he talks about his time in Gotham. He talks about how he was hired by Penguin's kids, the Sibs, as he calls them, the siblings, Sibs.
Good. It's a good name to refer to them as,
And he'd go after this, meth lab or whatever it is, or maybe a cocaine lab, and he kills everyone there. This apparently is I think he mentions what villain owns this place, but it's not Riddler. I think it's Falcone. Yeah, because 2 of the guys are dressed in Riddler outfits, but they're just Riddler goons who have been hired for this job. They're not actually working for Riddler right now, which is an interesting little detail that I quite liked, actually. But basically, he goes in and kills everyone. He was meant to leave one person alive, right? That was the thing he says. I'm meant to leave one person alive to spread the fear and spread who did this and whatnot. But he gets annoyed at the guy that he's trying to tell the message to and just kills him instead. And he's like, I'll leave a note. But it turns out that the siblings don't like this very much, and they badmouth him. And what's so interesting is they're berating him and saying that they're only going to pay him half of what he was going to get paid. But his narration the entire time, or his storytelling to Penguin, is how much in his head he was thinking about killing them and like how he would do it and how easy it would be, but he doesn't. And we find out over the next few parts of the story that he wasn't being paid with money, he was being paid with venom, as in, Bane venom.
Yep.
Not for himself, right? He does talk about how he used to be an addict and he's not anymore, and he hates addicts, and that's why he likes killing people at drug labs. But he's getting it because his boyfriend is sick, and the venom actually makes him feel okay, right? Whatever he's got goes away when as long as he's getting regular doses of venom. So he's doing this for someone he cares about, and that's what keeps him in line. That's what's stopping him from just losing his shit and killing the siblings. Is he needs this source of venom, and they're driving up the price. They want him to do another job to earn more venom, so he takes that job. And of course, he accidentally kills one guy again. Like, we don't see the whole job this time. We just see the tail end of it, and he shoots the guy, and he falls in the water, and he's like, "Shit,
God damn it!" Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, there's a full-page spread of Batman standing behind him, which did make me pop. I thought that was a really nice reveal. Mainly because Batman was never mentioned the whole issue, but we know he's in Gotham, so it makes sense that at some point he might attract the attention of Batman. So, yeah, he gets away from Batman by jumping in the filthy Gotham River because no one can see underneath.
He used to as a kid. I did like that too. He's like, we used to go to see how far we could go. And just like, oh man, Gotham kids are different, Yeah, he talks about stinking, how half of his friends died of cancer, and like he doesn't know that came from the river, but he thinks it does. No. Yeah, he says he pukes up a gallon of water, or what's supposed to be water, and you're just like, ugh.
But he goes home to his boyfriend after like laying low for a bit so as not to attract Batman, and finds just 2 penguin toys in his bed instead of his boyfriend. So the siblings kidnap the boyfriend, and when he goes to get him, they beat the shit out of Black Spider. He's just asking for his boyfriend Daniel. He needs him back, and they basically say, "We're going to do more jobs for us, and if you don't, we're going to kill him." So we see him like tied up, chained up in like a crappy room, bloody nose, all that. So it really sets up the motivation of like why he's going to want to help Penguin. He's probably got the most motivation out of any of the characters that have been introduced so far. In fact, it's almost interesting because we don't really know how this conversation started, but it does almost frame it as if he came to Penguin wanting to help. Like, he's not just being recruited, he is actively looking to be on the opposing side.
Because it felt like an interview at the beginning, right?
It does, yeah.
And then when you start going through, it's like, oh no, this is not an interview at all. So, because he talks about how he used to be an addict as well, and he went through, the program, and that, but you have to go through, part of that is you have to submit to a higher power, and it doesn't have to be God or anything like that, just something bigger than yourself. And so he says, and you say, I surrender to a higher power. And this is where, King has a lot of fun with the cuss words, where everything's bleeped, and his bleeping name is Oswald Cobblepot. And that sets the tone for the entire rest of the issue. But as it gets going, you're like, oh, this is not just an interview. This is him seeking Penguin out. Whereas Penguin, the rest of the issues have been him seeking them. This guy, went to him. And it seems they're going to be an integral piece, right? Because he's closer to the siblings than anybody else has been.
Yeah, basically because he's still actively working for them. Cobblepot describes him as the spy. He's got his team of mercenaries. He's got his concierge, the help. Now he has a spy. Admittedly, you do have to float the concept that maybe this guy is lying, that maybe this is actually an attempt to, fight against Penguin. But I mean, I'm throwing that out there as a possibility. I don't necessarily think that. I'm just, it's always possible. But it does make it feel really big when you get that final page and you finally see the other side of the room, and you see Penguin with everyone that he's recruited behind him. And, that final panel of the city, and be like, yeah, the city's not ready for us.
Like, we know this is the Bat book, right? It's the Penguin. But except for the first issue, we haven't had any Batman. So when Batman had showed up in this one, and it's such a shock. It almost feels like a slasher villain, right? It's almost like Jason's suddenly there, because even his reaction, he's like, "Ah, this bleeping day," when he realizes that Batman's behind him. It was such a good moment.
Yeah, there was some interesting thing. Just to go back to the idea of addiction, there was some interesting stuff in here where the siblings, when they show him his boyfriend chained up, you know, he does acknowledge that he's effectively addicted to his boyfriend now, even if he's not addicted to a substance anymore. Right. Earlier on, he describes Batman as being an addict. He's addicted to fighting crime and saving the city. We're all addicted to something, as he puts it. And it does sort of put into question the overall theme of the book and the idea that Penguin, like, he was away from his addiction, but him going back to take his city, is that him going back to, you know, his one true addiction, you know?
Which is power, right? Yeah. And so, you know, if Black Spider's looking at him as like the higher power, right? Is Gotham, you know, Penguin's higher power, and if that's at the point of controlling him, makes him no different than Batman, right? They're just on opposite sides of things. You know, because Batman wants to control Gotham as well, but in a different way than Cobblepot wants to. And so, and then, you know, how much different his kids are running things, right? They seem to be a little bit more brutal and efficient than Oswald was, where Oswald would kind of let people, you know, you owe me later. These guys are not having any of that. Like, you messed up twice. That's one too many. You know, we're taking things into our own hands.
Oh yeah, the sister starts beating them up with a stick, and the panels all go red. The colorings, you know, makes a big deal of it. It's like, you know, she's seeing red almost.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is that all the interview pages where we're just looking at him across the table telling the story, they're all just straight 9-panel grids.
Yeah.
And it really grounds those pages in like a really straightforward, like, you know, like, this is just someone sitting down telling the story. But as soon as you go into the actual flashbacks and the story he's telling, the layouts are all very different. You know, they're just whatever fits for the scene. They're all, you know, some have angled panels, some have just more segmented things, some have whatever. You know, but the idea that every time we go back to him telling the story, it's just these straight 9-panel grids. It really gives this sense of this is where he's just calmly telling the story. But when we're in the story, we get the panel layouts to kind of help tell what the feeling of the emotion is and all that. So, I think it's a really well done issue. It feels a little bit different to the other ones because it is from this slightly different perspective almost. I mean, the books always play with perspective. I mean, right from issue 1, it's never Oswald's perspective. It's always someone else. This might be the first one where it's entirely been one person's perspective.
Yeah.
But it certainly set him apart from all the other characters that he's recruited, and it feels like the final piece of the puzzle before we go into the city. So really
he's got his crew. Also curious too that his daughter. That's also very similar to Penguin's inciting incident when he has to go back and he beats up the tailor. You know, and then we learn the rule of thumb parable from him. So also very similar there. You know, that's King. You know, playing with the, you know, don't forget, these are still Penguin's kids. You know, they got this from somewhere. But yeah, that final page where you see the whole crew behind him, right, with the help, his ex-wife, the 4th of July.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention his ex-wife. Yeah,
because that's his consigliere, right? That's his advisor that he talks about there at the end with the spy and all that.
The helps, the muscle, and the team of the goons. Yes, I was doing it from memory earlier, so I didn't remember the exact wording. This is probably this is probably considered the end of the first arc. I imagine the first trade will end with this issue, is the cliffhanger of now they're going to the city, which makes perfect sense. But I think it's been a great first arc. I think all the issues have felt really stand out. I don't think any of them have been as good as issue 1 was like a masterclass of an issue, but they've all been great to really solid and built up the anticipation of like what is he actually going to do once he gets out of the city and fights his kids?
Yeah, no, it's really good because each of them have their own thing where they're kind of episodic, but they also stand alone, right? Because the second issue was the help, him going through and pulling the help out of retirement. Yeah. Right? And that was that tag. And then the third issue was him assembling the 4th of July and trying to give them what they want or forcing them to go. And then the fourth was getting his ex-wife in Vegas. You know, so each of them, they feel very episodic.
It's like, if I was to sort of rank them, issue 1 is definitely the best of the 5. I'd maybe put issue 4 second. I think the wife issue was really good. The way that played out like a heist and like the build up to the payoff. And then after that, maybe this issue.
Yeah, this one was really strong because just the how it kept going back to the 9 panel with him talking, it really set a pace for it, you know?
Yeah. And it made that final page where it turns to the other side of the room, and it's not 9 panels. It's a more cinematic thing where it's the full reveal of the group, and then the wide screen panel of like Penguin's face saying, "All right, it's time to go to Gotham, boys." It felt like a big build up.
Like I hate the Penguin, but I'm kind of rooting for him. After, you know, like Tom King's done it. He's made you care for that low life, you know. But yeah, it's some really solid stuff. I'm glad I decided to read this one. This is another Tom King, you know, victory lap, I guess.
Yeah. So, all right, what are you rating the Penguin issue 5?
This is an 8.5.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I had to think about it.
Higher. I thought you were gonna give it the 9.
I was a little tempted, but I think, you know, thinking about comparing it to the other issues that it's had, if I'm ranking this one third, I think 8.5 feels about right. And then, you know, issues 2 and 4, like the Help issue might be the weakest of the 5, and that's saying something because it was still very, very good. So, all right, Amazon's Attack issue 3, Josie Campbell writing with Vasco Georgiev on the art, or was it Georgiev?
I mean, either way, you're close. You're closer than you ever have been.
Okay.
So yeah,
I did my bestest. Okay.
Yeah.
Did my bestest. So yeah, this is a really interesting. You know, obviously Flash has tried this with a second book for Speed Force, and we hated that. I think Josie Campbell's second Wonder Woman book, Amazon's Attack, or I should say Wonder Woman family book, maybe a better way of putting it. I'm digging this. I'm digging this because it's tying into what's going on in Wonder Woman, because we've got this whole Amazon's like refugee crisis, which is referenced repeatedly in this. In fact, the first couple of pages are showing it was basically the Amazons like making their case to like Themyscira why they should leave, right?
And go help.
Yeah, it's like, hey, no, like the man's world could use someone like me for this, and one of them's like, oh, I've got a partner in the mainland that I want to go and live with or whatever, and then obviously it's contrasted on the right side of the page with like all the hate crimes and the riots and the picketing and all that, and it's like, okay, it's really doing a good job of like fitting into all of this, and this issue deals with this mysterious ship, the Asylum, which they're not really sure what that is quite yet. I did get a good chuckle out of Mary walking about in her civvies and Nubia being like, who the hell are you? And she's like, oh, fine, Shazam.
you were the same one. What is going on? Yeah, I liked all of that. And to be fair to Nubia, she's got a lot going on.
Oh, sure,
you know?
sure.
So, you know.
So basically they all decide to split up because they've got different things to investigate. So Mary's going to investigate Savannah's daughter, right? Which makes sense. That was going to be with Yara, but Yara's like, screw that. I'm going to go and deal with, you know.
My people are missing. I need to find them.
Yeah, because that's where they are. That's where the ship. That's where because they came here at the end of last issue. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Io, or Io, how do you pronounce the other character's name?
That'd be Io.
Io, I'd say Io. She's off to investigate something, and she's been given the bunny, Hoppy, to teleport her elsewhere to go with Nubia to investigate. So, yeah, they all split up in their own missions, right? Yara kind of says, piss off, I'm not Wonder Girl, leave me alone. So she leaves the book for now, and we have Nubia and Io going to investigate. They go to, was it Greece? And it turns out Greece is like the one country that's taken in refugees, like Amazons. And Nubia and I are like, but a lot of these people aren't even Amazons. Like I don't know them. And the woman there explains, Well, that's because anyone who even like sympathizes with the Amazons is now being targeted by certain people. So it's not just the Amazons themselves that are getting attacked or need help. So it's like, okay, this is adding a lot to the main Wonder Woman book. I feel this is like really diving in. It's almost like, because I would say the main book's not really done too much with that part of it since it introduced it, which is the idea that like the Amazons are being like turned away and hunted and being deported and stuff like that. Like,
right. We got a couple of it in the main book where they follow the one that lives at the house that has the daughter.
Yeah,
right?
that was the big scene we got. Yeah,
and we got that, but nothing. So this is good that Campbell's handling kind of the periphery of what Diana's going on. So King can just focus on Diana's story, right?
Yeah.
Versus the Sovereign and versus this is the greater picture.
It's a nice compliment to it, I think, in that sense. But it's also doing its own thing because Josie Campbell's also getting to do more with the Savannah Jr. and that connection to Mary Marvel, which this also does. So the big thing here is they think it's what was the name here?
Eris, who's the goddess of chaos.
Yeah, they think the golden apple is a hint that she's behind all of this. So that's what they're looking into. So they're teleporting around trying to look into that once they get a sense of that. Mary goes to the prison where Savannah Jr. is stationed. And there's like a weird Arrested Development reference here where the guard yells out "no touching," which I thought was quite funny. So credit for that. But it turns out like she was expecting Mary to show up, and she's disappointed she's not figured it out. And then two of the guards turn out to be her like henchmen with the phones in their chests that's been set up before. And Mary does figure that part out, but the alarms go off and Savannah seems to be escaping, which did make me question this a little bit. Was she just waiting at the prison till Mary showed up before she made her escape? It feels a bit weird that she didn't just leave already, but but
I think like any good villain, they have a plan so they can monologue, but I do like the attitude of Savannah Jr. here of like, come on, Mary, you're better than this. You're smarter. Just you should be working with me. You can be my best student. I love that because in my experience with Savannah and Captain Marvel or the Captain, whatever we're calling him now, it's very much just adversarial. He doesn't, he wants the power of Shazam or whatever. But here there is this kind of student mentor dynamic that Savannah Jr. is keeping going.
It's a very corrupt mentor, but there's still this sort of trying to make her a better, villain effectively. But when Mary mentions Eris, Savannah just starts laughing like, "What? I'm not working with her. That's what you thought? Oh, what a disappointment! You've not even figured out what's really going on." So she gets out. Mary ends up trapped in the prison with Count Vertigo and a bunch of other prisoners. So that's where we leave her. The thing the gimmick here being that she can't just Shazam in front of people because it'll reveal who she is. So she's sort of darting around in her civvies. Basically Savannah's talking to her henchmen in the van and she's like, none of them know what's going on. They think this is happening, but they don't have a clue. It builds up towards the end as she's narrating all this stuff. And we get this ending where Io sees that Eris is not behind all this. She's actually being killed and is skewered to the tree of golden apples. So, because obviously they went off to find Eris thinking she was behind this, and it's like, no, she's been killed. There's someone else behind this. So that's a good cliffhanger. Sets up, whatever we're doing next issue.
And Nubia goes missing too. And also, that's not Io. I got that wrong. That's Queen Faruka, right? She's the queen of the Bana Migdal.
Someone gets called Io early on, no?
Yeah, because there is. That's one of the Amazonians that leaves too. She works for Nubia. Yeah, she's Nubia's kind of second in command.
Oh, apologies, everyone. I was calling someone the wrong name the whole issue.
Because when they said Faruka on here, I was like, oh yeah, that's not Io, that's Faruka.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with this character as much, so I learned that name early on and thought it was her and just kept calling her that the whole issue.
And so when they transport to Eris's realm, right, it's just Faruka and Hoppy, and then Nubia's gone. And so that's where they turn around. So that's also curious.
Well, it's not before they transport to the realm, because they're already there. They see the tree like through this entrance, and it's when they go into the entrance where there's a flash of light, and that's where like Nubia's disappeared. So we don't know where Nubia is, but they did seem to be like in the same place as the tree before that, though. Yeah.
So curious to see what's going on there, and who could it be if not Eris? Like. Because they also bring up Hestia, and that Hestia is, so when they bring up Eris, and as the goddess of chaos, she did not represent the ideals of Greek society, especially for women, right? Because she was very much like one of the male gods, in that she was very much, what do they say here? I gotta go back, because it's the one lady in Greece where, she was depicted as an angry woman, and aggression was a virtue of man. Loving servitude was the expectation of the woman. So her counter was Hestia. This is the first time they bring up Hestia, and she's like the goddess of the hearth and domestic, and she's ready to serve the, quote unquote ideal woman. So I'm wondering if Hestia has something to do with this, because why bring up her, versus, Eris? But also it doesn't seem to me like Hestia crucifying somebody up on the tree like that. That's a pretty big deal. For one of the lesser gods to have done. But yeah, it's not every day you get a murdered god in the pages of a Wonder Woman book. So pretty big deal, whoever this was.
Yeah, no, I'm having fun with this book. I think Josie Campbell's really good with the dialogue and the banter between the characters. And building a nice, a nicely paced story. I felt like I got a nice chunk of stuff between the two plot lines going on in this. Like, once they all split up, it did a good job of feeling different from the first couple issues, because it felt like, okay, they're splitting up now as opposed to sticking together, and we can advance the plots in different ways. So, really good stuff. Yeah, what are you giving Amazon's Attack?
I'm going to 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. Yeah. So, all right, cool. Justice Society of America, issue 8. Geoff Johns writing with Mikel Janin on the art. So this is more of the characters that Helena wants to recruit. These villains that will one day be redeemed and on the JSA, or at least aware in her future, as it's pointed out in this book. Her future is not necessarily going to exist anymore, though, because they've stopped a lot of the things from happening. So, that said, though, it's a very cynical outlook from some of the characters to be like, well, I guess these characters will never be redeemed down. Like, no, they could still be redeemed. If it happened in one timeline, it could happen in this one. Stop being so cynical, Alan. Come on now.
Well, and I also love where they go, where you still going to try Grundy? And she's like, yeah, Monday's coming up. That was a fun little moment.
Yeah, I got a chuckle out of that. So it starts off in Moscow. There's a nice little kind of snowy thing where these two guys are chasing down this woman, but it turns out she's got a red ring. It's the Crimson Flame, and she burns them to a crisp. Really fun couple of pages that are very menacing, and the evil eyes and all that. So it sets up her, and then, this is Ruby Sokov, and it does that really nice comic book thing where it goes to the Hall of Justice, or, well, not the Hall of Justice, that's the Justice League, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The GSA headquarters.
The JSA Brownstone.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, this is who this is, right? We've heard that she's burned some people, and they start talking about who she is. So it does that thing where you get the big opening with all the bombastic art and the big thing, but then you get this page right after it explaining, okay, this is who this is why we should care. She is somehow, she's the daughter of, the Red Lantern.
Vladimir.
Yeah. And
because we need a Russian name.
And Alan is like, no, this is bad. He's definitely dead. She might be looking for him, but trust me, he's dead. Which probably ties into the book that he's got right now, which sadly we didn't like enough to keep reading.
Yeah.
But, worth mentioning. So, yeah, Alan's being really pissy about this and wants to go off and sort of look into it himself. So he's quite cold about it. But we get more scenes in Russia where the Red Lantern is attacking the soldiers, looking for her dad. There's a great page here actually where she kills the guards out front, and she goes in, and there's this page where it's split into 4 horizontal panels more or less, although they're at an angle. But it does the thing where you see her going through the building, and the transitions between the panels are sort of,
levels.
Yeah, it's like one, like, so on one panel she fires her blast at a couple of guards and she walks in the elevator. So then on the right hand of the page you get the elevator actually crossing over between the 2 panels, and then you see her do some more stuff on that panel, and then at the left hand side of the page you get the ladder going down into the other panel. So it sort of flows really nicely throughout the whole thing. And then there's a green glow on her face in this little circular panel at the bottom, which tells you that Alan's there. But what's so effective about it is that there's not a hint of green in this entire scene before that panel.
Until that little circle.
Yeah, it's all reds and yellows and a bit of blue because her outfit's kind of blue and red. But there's not a single touch of green. So that green glow feels so impactful when you see it on her face.
Also, it just dawned on me that she's red, right? Her dad was the Red Lantern with the Crimson Flame. Her name is Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby.
Alan has a... Huh?
Yeah, Ruby meaning red. Yes, it's
right.
Very intentional.
Alan has a daughter with green skin named Jade. Why is it taking me till now to put this together?
Ruby and Jade, yes.
yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's one of those John's things that I didn't think about until right this instant, No,
there's a moment where I realized they called her Ruby, and I went, "Oh, very good, yes, yes, very good." So. Yeah, they have a bit of a fight. Alan tries to tell her that her dad's not been killed here because she thinks he is. And, actually makes a fiery construct of her father to come after Alan, which is also a great page. It's a very quick read, this issue, by the way, because these pages are so action-focused with very little dialogue. But Alan's able to blast her with enough green light to kind of win the fight. We come back to them in a little bit. We do get a quick page or two with the others, talking about Grundy, talking about other people that Helena wants to go after. The Harley Quinn's son being the one that they're going to go after next. Courtney kind of suggests that to be the next target. But it's it's a lot of the other GSA. It's Helena talking to Stargirl and Jane, Jakeem, and was it Salem, the witch girl? Yeah.
Also, this is like a couple other books keep doing this where they keep bringing up Starman, and they bring up Kyle Knight, who is Jack Knight from Starman from the James Robinson book. And that he's going to become someone called the Mist, but at this point he's 5. So like this is also John's progressing the Jack Knight story. Which I think is kind of nice since him and Robinson are so close. He had to think he would have gotten the okay to do that, right? Because Jack is one of the characters that never shows up in anything, Yeah. And it always feels like there's just a respect from creators there. But I thought that was definitely interesting that he's given him a son that's still only 5 years old, and that's played up for laughs when they're suggesting the Gentleman Ghost, because that's who else was on Helena's team. So you got a 5-year-old, you got a dead man. It's she wants to do the impossible here. So
yeah, no, I mean that's just obviously furthering the other stuff because the end of the issue says next time the Harley Quinn's son, so that's setting up what's happening next issue. But we go back to Alan and Ruby, who actually have went to a bar or a pub to talk about what's going on. So. And he's explaining, look, he's definitely dead. I saw him die. Like, come on now. But what's interesting here is he basically she can sense that he's lying, right?
Yeah.
Because she says, don't pretend that he was your friend, he was your enemy. And there's a great beat here where there's a panel with no dialogue, and then a second panel where he says he was. To say he's agreeing that he was his enemy, right? The Red Lantern was his enemy, And then she goes, wait, I sense another lie, which is obviously her learning that maybe there was more to the relationship between Alan and the Red Lantern, or the Crimson Flame, than she was aware of. Like, there's something more to it. Obviously, we were getting hints of that in those first couple of issues of his book, which was setting up the entire backstory of this. But basically Alan's like, Helena wants to recruit you. She sees you as some kind of hero, so I'm going to take you back to talk to her, and then like it's up to you to convince me she's right, because right now obviously he doesn't want to trust her. So the issue ends with them flying off. It actually looks quite pretty. It's just the red and green streaks of light going through the snowy sky of Russia. But at the end of the issue, there's a hooded figure watching this and being disappointed that this is happening. So why don't you tell us about who this is, Matt?
I have no idea who this is.
Okay, I thought you might.
He looks like Pharaoh Lad, right? Because Alan Scott found it before I could.
We should say he says Legionnaire out. To whoever he's talking to, he says Legionnaire out at the end. Yeah.
But he looks like Pharaoh Lad. So Pharaoh Lad's one of the Legionnaires that he wore a mask like that. I think he had metal control powers, I believe. The name, like where he was solid like iron, something along those lines. But we do know from solicits that we're getting the Legion of Substitute Heroes.
Yeah. Actually, I should point out here, he doesn't actually say anything particularly villainous. He just says that he was looking for Red Lantern, but Alan Scott found her first. So it doesn't necessarily mean bad.
No.
So, worth mentioning. That said, though, he's got a bit of a gimp-looking mask. So he looks kind of villainous to me, but, I mean, you know.
Well, again, and that's to me why... it seems like it's Pharaoh Lad, just because of that mask. Let me just double check. But yeah, this was not so much of a surprise. No, Pharaoh Lad's is a bit different. Pharaoh Lad's doesn't have the mouth, like the gimpy mouth. So
it could be a new character.
I mean, we know Johns likes to do that. He likes to create Legionnaires.
Yeah.
And you know, there was, I don't know how much you remember of the Legion of Three Worlds, but there was that triplicate kind of girl that had the red, I think it was red, blue, and green kind of Green Lantern powers. I'm wondering if that ties into this, because now we have the red flame, the crimson flame. Who's to say there's not a blue one they find in the future, right?
Yeah.
Along those lines. So.
I don't know. My only concern is with the delays between issues that I'm going to forget this cliffhanger. Like, I'll remember the stuff with the main characters, but it's these little teases at the end that I'm going to forget. So hopefully I still can remember this when he pops back up later. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this issue. I think this focusing on this other character here for this issue of the Crimson Flame's daughter and setting up the future stuff, like, I think it's solid. I think Janin's art is fantastic. It really makes all the stuff with the young Red Lantern really memorable, with her attacking the guys in the street and then looking for her father, the way the layouts like of her going through the building, and then the fight with Alan with the red and green colors, fighting each other. All really good stuff. Like, this does feel like an old school Geoff Johns comic book. I wish the issues were on time every month, just so that it had a good pacing to it. But
wouldn't forget, because I can't tell you what the last issue was about.
Oh, it was the Grundy fight, I think.
Yeah, that probably. But there's so much time in between, like, it's tough to remember. But I like it when I read it. For sure. But yeah, so I'm looking at Legion of Substitute Heroes, and I don't see anybody that looks like that. So maybe this is a new, or it's a new take on them. But yeah, pretty curious to see where this all goes with how the Legion plays out.
Yeah. All right. What are you giving Just Society of America issue 8?
This is giving this an 8.
Yeah, I think I'll go 7.5. But I had a good time. I'd probably go higher if like it is probably just on its own little island a little bit more than it should be because of the delays between issues. But Maybe it does deserve the 8. I don't know. No, I'll go 7.5. But like, I am enjoying it. I do always look forward and get into these John's issues.
All right. So because we didn't read the Alan Scott book, I just pulled up the character of Vladimir Sokov. So essentially, he is their version of the Winter Soldier. He we saw the origin with him going into the Crimson Flame, right?
Okay.
And then that added to that, he ends up in the Soviet Union and takes on the name Vladimir Sokov, joining the Red Army, becoming a Russian patriot and one of their most decorated soldiers. So yeah, so I'm sure that's all going to play out in the Alan Scott book. But yeah, so this is Vladimir is Johnny, his long lost love.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yep. But so the fact here that he's talking to the daughter and all of this and the stuff that she's hinting at, again, this would all have been really cool if they were on time, because then we could have had that, and then we could look forward to the Alan Scott book to try to figure out what's going on. Now they're kind of offset where that issue comes out the same day as this one. But yeah. Anyways, that solves that, or puts that to not bed, but you know what I mean. Yeah. That solves that out.
Yeah. So it's a shame I don't like the writing in the Alan Scott book, because I would have enjoyed reading the story of that. But hey, it is what it is. All right. Batman Santa Claus Silent Night issue 4. Geoff Parker writing with Danny Kim and Steven Segovia on the art. So it seems like they had to really break out some different artists to make sure this got done all in time. Because I had a very strict release schedule, being this Christmas book over the 4 weeks. So yeah, it was a fun conclusion. Like, I had a good time. It's not.
Yeah, it was fine. It kind of, when it's revealed of who's behind everything, it was kind of a letdown to me, just because it kind of felt like, I don't know. I feel like they built it up to be something bigger, and then what they ended up being was kind of like, oh, okay, this is fine.
I thought you would be into the idea of some of the people in the Phantom Zone being there so long that they're basically just ghosts now. I thought you might have been into that.
I mean, that's part of the lore. Like, that's fine. But, like, I was starting to think maybe Eclipso, right? Something along the lines.
Oh, Matt, this is the last issue of this book. There was no way they were introducing Eclipso and dealing with it in the same issue.
I think they could have. I think when he's dealing with possession and that type of stuff, and even the Black Diamond and all of these things, the corrupting power of it, maybe that has something to do with Krampus. But I mean, yeah, Ghost from the Phantom Zone, Ghost showing up on Christmas is an old thing, right?
3 ghosts at that.
Yeah, exactly. So it does play into it, but I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't a tad underwhelmed, but I did like a lot of the little moments. I mean, happen in this one.
Damien's held captive by Krampus, and Damien basically tries to get out of it by playing the role of scared child and saying that he won't do bad anymore, which makes Krampus not want to kill him, because the spirit inside him is like, kill him, kill the boy. Yeah. And he's like, no, because he's scared into not wanting to do bad things. And obviously,
which is what Krampus wants.
Yeah. And Damien's just playing the part, of course, but he, so... Yeah, they use Blue Beetle to kryptonite the hell out of Superman, who's possessed with 2 of the spirits. Yeah.
Overclocks the Scarab, though. So it wasn't something that I knew that that Kajida could. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
there's a bit of an avalanche, then some more of the Justice League show up to help, which is all fine and well. Clark's like, I recognize what those spirits were. They were for the Phantom Zone. So it actually ties in that where Krampus was stuck was the Phantom Zone, which is really funny, actually, from a lore perspective. But basically, Santa can send children through trees, and that sort of brings in the idea of the Christmas tree. And then that's how he knows where kids are all over the world, is because the trees act as like a conduit. So he basically figures out where Damien is by feeling the trees, and they go and get him. Fight Krampus, but Krampus ends up helping a little bit and is reunited with Santa, and Santa takes him on his sleigh ride with him for Christmas night. But also Damien, because he's like, hey, we can't make up for what happened to you, but we can give you a nicer childhood.
You You deserve to be a kid for once.
Yeah, because apparently Damien, when he was 5 years old, asked for a satellite system to monitor his enemies, and he never got it. So Santa's like, why don't you come on a sleigh ride?
I mean, he was trying to start the OMAC project at 5. So good on you, Santa, for sparing us.
It's pretty funny. So yeah, it's got a typical Christmas movie style ending where Santa's leaving in the sleigh and everyone's waving goodbye. And Santa says, hey, use my workshop to have a big dinner. Time doesn't move here the same way as the rest of the world. So all of the Justice League don't have to worry about the world needing help, because while you're here, time's not moving forward. So the Justice League get a big Christmas dinner together where they all get to be happy. And that's the end of the issue. So, yeah. It was a fun arc. I think it was a really fun little Christmas book. Maybe it could have used like a 5th issue just to sort of like flesh out the last chunk of it a bit. It felt like there was a lot being explained here and wrapping up quite quickly. But, I think all things considered, I had a good time with it.
Yeah, no, it was still pretty good. I did love what Jeff Parker did with Santa lore and just Christmas lore in general. Like you brought up the stuff with the trees, and that came from people bringing something that was green inside for winter was going to be dark and dreary. So it was, like a promise of the spring to come. But the fact that he ties in, Santa can kind of sense things through trees. And that's why we have the Christmas tree, because they also, I think it was in the last issue, how they get to the North Pole was through like a tree portal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that played in as well, and just the idea of Santa as kind of this pagan demigod, that has its roots in these Christmas traditions. I also like, so again, if Jeff Parker gets to do this every year and we get a new, DC Santa story, I think that would be cool. Where I don't know what other adventures to do, because I always think you work towards Krampus, but he came with Krampus out of the gate, so. A Damien and Krampus story would be fun.
I don't think he was planning in like having a sequel, so he had no reason to save Krampus.
No, I understand that, but like I do want a Damien Krampus special sometime. You know what I mean? Where Krampus is trying not to carry him off, because Damien is kind of a terrible child, so him trying to carry him off, I think, would be funny. But yeah, and pretty okay. So. Last chapter was okay, probably the weakest of them for me. But it started with such a bang that it's kind of hard to maintain that, Yeah,
I think I probably like the first 2 issues more than 3 and 4. I think I'd say that. I will say the art definitely felt a bit more all over the place with this issue, having the 2 different artists, neither of which I think were on any of the previous issues either. So definitely felt a little bit more inconsistent. Segovia can be solid, but this did feel a little bit rushed in places. I think it was definitely the worst art I had this week, which, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of good art and a lot of books this week, but this one definitely stuck out as being the only one where I was like, this was only just kind of serviceable at best. So, it is what it is. So, all right, what are you giving Silent Night issue 4?
I give it a 6.5.
Okay. I think I'm happy enough to just give it the 7, but
there you go.
That's fair enough. All right. Power Girl issue 4. Leah Williams writing with Eduardo Pansica on the art. This is another Matt only book. Take it away.
Yeah. So this is essentially the monologue for the symbiote ship, and how during a fight that led to Paige, but at the time Kara, coming to this Earth. So they're really leaning on that aspect of her origin. That a piece of it ended up in this Earth and was reawakened when a fisherman had found it. And it took him over, saw that Paige was still around, and basically wants to assimilate back into her, or have her assimilate back into it. And it's saying about how it preferred the alien physiology of when it got hooked to that alien like pirate character, And so that's where he knew that this was going to be a much bigger deal. So it found when it got thrown into the water by the alien when he pulled it out. It found the secondary Fortress of Solitude and found Paige and that lion, and so now it's going to take over. And most of the rest of the issue is a fight between Paige and Superman, and she's got all these weird spines coming out of her. It's coming out of her eye. Clark's very confused because she's speaking differently, but then realizes that it's not her. So he starts playing back. Paige tries to stop, and it does this cool thing with the art to where she is seeing things out of just her eyes. So the art's drawn where, we see Superman coming towards her in just the eye, but then Paige is just in total darkness. And the symbiote ship is taking the form of that lion that she sat with, as it died. And it keeps cutting back in and out. She hits Superman with like the super heat vision, and just as about it looks, like that's it. And the symbiote ship's fully taking control. Her best friend Omen shows up with Streaky, and so Omen realizes what's going on, and her and Streaky immediately start going at Paige, where Omen goes into her mental self, which subdues the symbiote ship just enough for Omen to, on the outside, rip out the piece through her eye, and for Streaky to burn it with his heat vision. So there's this real fun little piece of Streaky completely obliterating things. She thinks Superman dusts himself off. They give Paige essentially until her eye can heal. She's wearing a bandage over her eye. She looks totally metal. But she has the feeling like this isn't the last, with the way the symbiote ship shows up, this isn't the last they've seen of it. Because, like all Kryptonian technology, it's meant to endure. And so as one of the Helix robots in the Caribbean fortress is trying to, prepare the lion for burial, it goes up into the lion and fully takes back control. And so it ends with the lion taking like this almost human form, not human, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's human-like, where it's standing up on. Yeah, it gets a humanoid appearance, but also very much like technological as well. So he's kind of like a Lionborg. Like, it's very weird. And then he says that he's renamed himself to Symbio, and today's the day he was born. But at the same time, Superman goes to talk to Helix, and Helix has also been taken over because Superman wants Helix to look over him to make sure he's okay after all of this. So this issue basically comes down to just a fight scene between Paige and Superman, just for the symbiote ship to reveal itself as the main perpetrator in all of this. I don't know where else this book's going to go now, because it kind of seems like originally the original premise seemed to be Omen and Paige in their superhero therapy type session, and this book has kind of done none of that. It's gone into Paige being her own person, which is fine. I just don't know now after if this is just going to be constant symbiote ship trying to reassimilate her or what. But like it's fine. Again, Streaky vaporizing the piece of the symbiote ship that came out of her was a very funny touch. So but yeah, it's fine. It's nothing as emotional as the last issue. And again, for just being a fight issue with her and Superman, I think it's okay. So if I'm rating it, it's probably a 6.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So, what is your panel / moment of the week?
All right, man. There are some good ones from Beast World. Donna with Garo looked pretty cool. Um, Action when Superman shows up to save Otho. That's a good moment. But mine's gonna be from Titan 6, and it's gonna be that splash page of Corey by Travis Moore, where she had said, she had learned to fight for herself or to save herself, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little conflicted. I've got a few things that I could pick from all different books, but if I'm thinking about, there's like so many things I could pick from Detective.
I figured you were gonna go with Detective too, so I left those for you to talk about.
I could also go with maybe the end in a Penguin as well, to be honest. But I'll go with Detective. I'll go with the page of Barbatos on the boat.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a tough call this week. There's a lot of really good things that are kind of equal, as opposed to one thing that's standing out as being the thing of the week for me. But I'll go with that. Cover of the week. A lot of books. I didn't actually end up having a lot that I wanted to mention too much, though. I think for me, I'll mention the Deodato Jr. card cover for Flash, which is just the line person face. It looks like something from Hellraiser. It's creepy as shit. So I was into that. But I'll probably go with the Jason Shawn Alexander variant for Detective, which is like the bat angel skeleton and Batman.
Yeah,
it's really creepy. I kind of dig it. I do like the Catwoman Wanted poster from Liam Sharp though as well, just to mention
that's pretty
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a series of covers, because there've been a few of those with different characters in the Wanted. I think Cass was last time. What's your cover of the week?
All right, so there's two I want to bring up, and they're both by Sweeney Boo. The first one is the Power Girl variant cover, and it's just basically Paige in her costume, but there's like this white star background going on behind, but it looks a lot more like Amanda Connor than anything else, and I just like the vibe of it. It's very light, and the water's almost like watercolor type, and it looks great. But my pick's going to be from the Action Comics annual, and it's going to be the Sweeney Boo 1 in 25, which has got Superman, and it's done in like purples and pinks, and like the blue is a darker purple. There's almost like this red sheen over it that the coloring just looks great. So that's mine.
All right. What's your art of the week?
This one's tough. I have it narrowed down to Titans and Penguin. And I was hoping you were going to go first, because then I could pick, right? One or the other.
I mean, yeah.
Because they're both good for their own reasons.
You got Lucas Meyer, you got Travis Moore, you got the Perkins Alexander combo and Detective.
Yep.
Deodato Jr. and Flash is really good, but yeah, the Latorre and Penguin, there's a lot of options to pick from.
So yeah, the Latorre and Penguin is so understated.
Or hell, even Janin on JSA.
Justice, right? But just because it took me by surprise, I'll go with Beast World with Lucas Meyer, just because I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I will go with... I'll probably go with Detective, I think. The Alexander Perkins combo. I think it's just still perfect for the book and what it's doing. Yeah. But yeah, there's like 4 or 5 options that I could have picked this week. It was a very very strong week, I think, overall. But it should be reflected in our top 5 books of the week. Matt, on you go.
Yeah. All right, so one is going to be Titans. 2 is going to be Beast World. 3 is going to be Penguin. 4 is Detective. And 5 is... 5 is Action Comics annual.
Yeah, my number 1's probably Detective. My number 2 is Titans. My number 3 is Penguin. Number 4 is Titans Beast World. Number 5 is... is probably GSA. I think I was going to give it to Action, but I think GSA just nudges it out, just because Action has just a couple things that I wish were different. So yeah. Okay, there you go. That is our top 5 books. I will now tell you what is coming next week from DC Comics, and thankfully we get a quieter week in this hellscape that has been December. Well, it'll be January next week, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
We have Batman 141, we have Poison Ivy 18, Shazam issue 7, Birds of Prey issue 5, Blue Beetle issue 5, Fire and Ice Welcome to Smallville 5, Titans Beast World Tour Atlantis. We got Kneel Before Zod issue 1, Superman 78, Behind the Metal Curtain issue 3, and Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 1. Oh, they've renumbered that. Very good. So, yeah, I only have, 4 including the tie-in book. Well, I guess 5 if I'm reading the Zod book. I guess I need to try that. Okay.
Yeah.
Still, though, 5 is still much...
You said 3, and I was looking for ones to cut, and I was like, hey, we don't have to do the Beast World tie-in. We should have learned by now.
I mean...
You know?
If I fit it in a week where I had 10 other books, it feels really shitty to not read it in the week where I've only got 3 or 4 other books. True.
Plus, we get Manta taking on an actual Manta form. It says in the preview.
Who's on it? Sina Grace, Frank Thierry, Megan Fitzmartin. I mean, Federici's one of the artists.
And Delandro on art as well. So
I don't remember who Delandro is art-wise.
He did the Vigilante book. Vigilante? No. Mr. Miracle.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay, that was good.
Version, yeah.
That was all right, yeah, that was not bad.
So, yeah, I guess I got to read that back up and before I do Zod. We'll see. But yeah, no, I have Blue Beetle and Ivy that you don't. So,
yeah, I mean, it's not a super quiet week, but it is a quieter week than we've had over these last 3 weeks. So. I'll do some Patreon books next week as well. Should be fun. And we'll see how it goes. But that has been the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here on Comics from the Multiverse. We do always appreciate it. Let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments, as always. And of course, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.